The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson. How you doing out there? Everything going all right for you on this a very warm Friday, June 14th? We got 92 degrees in the greater metropolitan area. Probably heading up. We're probably going to hit 93, maybe 94 before the day's done. So this is a day to take it easy out there. And as you heard in our weathercast, light and loose clothing. I am appropriately attired in both light and loose clothing. And because it's Friday, and well, I do it every day, but especially on Friday, I'm wearing my flip-flops.
Yeah, keep it casual Friday.
I've always believed, when I did the morning show, I used to suggest that people wear flip-flops to work and just tell everybody that I said it was okay. Flip-flop Friday, tell your boss that then I told you it was okay to wear flip-flops to work. I wear flip-flops all year long. I love flip-flops.
I've noticed that just a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, it is that kind of day where flip-flops will feel good and a dip in the pool will feel good after the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, listen, we got a lot of ground to cover here today, a lot of things to discuss. The Supreme Court has struck down a federal ban on bump stocks. If you don't know what a bump stock is, I'll explain it to you in a bit, but it's a decision that is 6-3, which means that the 6 conservatives on the court said that this was not the bump stock was not making a semi-automatic rifle an automatic machine gun, and the 3 Democrats were against it. So from Fox News. The Supreme Court on Thursday ruled that a bump stock does not transform a firearm into an automatic weapon, striking down a federal rule that banned bump stocks. 6-3 decision written by Justice Clarence Thomas, and he says Congress has long restricted access to machine guns, a category of firearms defined by the ability to shoot automatically more than one shot with a single function of the trigger. Semi-automatic firearms, which require shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot, are not machine guns. This case asks whether a bump stock, an accessory for a semi-automatic rifle that allows the shooter to rapidly re-engage the trigger and achieve a high rate of fire, converts the rifle into a machine gun. We hold that it does not. The case is known as Garland versus Cargill. They wrote, we hold that a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun because it cannot fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. And even if it could, it would not do so automatically, Thomas wrote. The ATF, the the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, therefore exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies bump stocks as machine guns. This actually was brought forward during the Trump administration. The Trump administration initiated this ban on the devices, reversing earlier regulations, and President Biden's Justice Department defended it in a court of law. You might imagine the three liberals on the court were not happy. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented from the majority, saying the court puts bump stocks back in civilian hands. To do so, it casts aside Congress' definition of a machine gun and seizes upon one that is inconsistent with the ordinary meaning of the statutory text and is unsupported by context or purpose. So, I mean, look, you can say that, but this matter is settled law. And so the bump stock is not illegal, effective today, according to the highest court in the land. Immediately, over on Capitol Hill, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer condemned the 6-3 Supreme Court ruling, overturning the Trump-era ban on bump stocks, which you know what they do. The far-right Supreme Court continues their unprecedented assault on public safety by reversing the common sense guidance issued in 2018 by the ATF. Bump stocks have played a devastating role in many of the horrific mass shootings in our country, but sadly it's no surprise to see the Supreme Court roll back this necessary public safety rule as they push out their out-of-touch extreme agenda, he says. And so he's asking that Congress take up this matter and pass a law that would outlaw bump stocks. So I don't think that's going to happen. If it were to, come up in the Senate, I don't know where it would land, but I don't get the impression it would be passed over in the House of Representatives. So it's not going anywhere for a moment, it seems, until an election changes the dynamics of Washington. I would say to you that this matter is a settled matter. I have in my hand, though, the list of things that are still waiting some kind of ruling by the high court. And there's some big stuff in this. Here's a look at some of the major undecided cases put together by the Associated Press. Presidential immunity is the big one. Donald Trump is arguing that former presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts they took in office and that the indictment he faces on charges of election interference must be dismissed. Supreme Court has previously ruled that former presidents can't be sued in civil cases for what they did in office, but has never weighed in on a criminal immunity. The timing of the decision may be important, as the outcome of Trump's trial in Washington, D.C. may not take place before the November elections, even if the court rules he is not immune. There's a January 6th case. A former Pennsylvania police officer is challenging the validity of obstruction charges brought against hundreds of people who took part in the violent assault on the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Trump faces the same charge of obstructing an official proceeding. So there is that. Guns, the justices are weighing whether to uphold a federal law that seeks to protect domestic violence victims by keeping guns away from the people alleged to have abused them. An appeals court struck down a law that prohibits people under domestic violence restraining orders from possessing firearms. The court found the law violated the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms following the Supreme Court's 2022 ruling that expanded gun rights and changed how courts are supposed to evaluate gun restrictions. I think one of the more interesting cases is the Chevron case. Like the gas station. Justices could overturn a 40-year-old decision that has been cited thousands of times in federal court cases used to uphold regulations on the environment, public health, workplace safety, consumer protections. The decision, colloquially known as the Chevron calls on judges to defer to federal regulators when the words of the statute are not crystal clear. In other words, Congress writes a law, and they send it down and say, do this, such and such agency. The agency takes a look at it and says, well, it's not very clear what you meant by this, so we're going to put out our interpretation, and we will then, we will carry out the matter as we think you intended it to be in our interpretation. The decision has long been targeted by conservatives and business interests who say Chevron robs judges of their authority and gives too much power to regulators, because basically the Chevron defense is they say, look, you should give great deference to the various agencies that have promulgated these rules. No matter, what you think the original text meant or what Congress meant the original text meant, it is the regulators who have to decide how to carry out that rule, and great deference should be given to them, meaning that regulators are doing things that they're, I think, not empowered to do under the law. That's a pretty good case to watch right there, because what it will do is it will allow people to then take cases where regulators have overstepped their boundaries and have promulgated an interpretation of the rule not intended by Congress. Every administration tries to do this. And we look at the law and we interpret it this way. So therefore, our rule going forward will be this. And that may not be what the Congress intended, but that's the way they interpret it. And they're giving great deference in the courts under the Chevron doctrine. So I hope that one gets overturned. And it looks, based on the arguments that went forward, that might well happen. 3 cases remain unresolved at the intersection of social media and government. 2 cases involve social media laws in Texas and Florida that would limit how Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube, and other social media platforms regulate content posted by their users. While the details vary, both laws aim to address conservative complaints that the social media companies were liberal-leaning and censored users based on their viewpoints, especially the viewpoints of those on the political right. The 3rd case, Republican-led states are suing the Biden administration over how far the federal government can go to combat controversial social media posts on topics including COVID-19 and election security. The federal appeals court sided with the states in finding that administration officials unconstitutionally coerced the platforms to limit conservative points of view. So that's a good one right there. There are other things, but I think those are the big ones. And the court usually ends its session toward the end of June. They can extend, and they have done that in the past if they have other things. I think the big one to watch, immunity. I think the Chevron decision is very good. The J6 cases are pretty interesting as well. But a lot of stuff that is out there right now for the high court to rule on after having heard arguments. And I would expect that, every day between now and the end of the month is potentially a day when the Supreme Court could release another one of those rulings. This may end up before the Supreme Court. It came out this afternoon. The Department of Justice has said it will not prosecute Attorney General Garland for contempt of Congress for refusal to turn over audio from Biden. The Biden-Hur interview. Remember that one? This is the one where the current president is being brought up was being investigated about the classified documents that he possessed, the ones in the garage next to the Corvette and other places. And they were trying to decide, this special counsel by the name of Robert Hur, trying to decide whether or not charges should be brought against a sitting president with regard to mishandling of those documents. And so Biden comes in for a 2-day interview. In the middle of, it was right around October 7th, when the attacks against Israel were underway. and did 2 days of interviews. And at the end of that, Hur said, I declined to bring charges because I don't think if you presented this person, the president of the United States, to a jury, he would come across as a well-meaning, old, doddering man with a bad memory. And so Congress said, well, we want to hear that tape. If you came to that remarkable conclusion, we should be able to hear that tape. Well, they got a transcript, but there's indications the transcript was cleaned up. And there are a lot of uhs and ands and uhs and pauses were all taken out. And that when you hear the actual recording, you come away with a much very different opinion. And Congress has said, House of Representatives said, we want that tape. Robert Hur has said no. And the Department of Justice has said no. And they claim executive privilege of all things. I don't know that really will hold up because these aren't executive branch documents. This is a recording of that was done for a trial by a special counsel. I don't think that executive privilege extends to that, quite frankly. Executive privilege is supposed to be a thing where, you protect the conversations that are had when you are doing internal deliberations in the executive branch so that people can speak freely. That's supposed to be executive privilege. This doesn't really fall within that realm. And I think this case may be headed to the highest court in the land eventually. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Oh, let me tell you about the good folks over at USS. You've trusted them for 30 years in your crawl space. Now they're offering mold treatments for your crawl space, and they'll give you $500 off any mold growth solution that they offer if you take action between now and June 30th. Now, let's talk about that. Mold in your crawl space is not healthy because the mold spores get into the air down there. That air that's below your house ends up in your house. It's not good for you. It's not good for your family. You need to get rid of the mold. It can be very toxic, in fact. And they've got a way of doing it called the 3-step RTE process. USS will come in, they will remove, they will treat, and they will encapsulate the space. And that will remove the active growth, treat the area where the growth occurs, and encapsulate the crawl space so that it's a nice, safe space and there's no mold. And remember, don't wait because humidity is rising. Call now. Get $500 off the USS Mold Treatment RTE solution. Your space will be warranted and backed by a USS guarantee, giving you peace of mind. USS is here to help for all your foundation, waterproofing, and now mold issues. Call USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Here's the number, 615-488-7855.
An investigation of another incident involving a Boeing aircraft and a painful reminder of America's most deadly school shootings will soon be gone. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Jay Harper in the newsroom. Hey, Jay, good afternoon to you. Hope that you're staying cool there on that little cubicle of yours.
You betcha. I've got the fan in the floor, and we're happening here.
All right. And you have your light-colored clothing?
Yes.
Is it loose-fitting?
Yes, and in fact, I'm not wearing any pants. So we're in good shape.
That's the great thing about radio.
Yeah,
nobody would know. Mason Fleming is in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons.
Staying facing forward now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Don't look back. Whatever you do, Mason, don't look back. It's not pretty back there. And that's why his camera is not turned on today. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, it's on there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
I don't know about Jay's, but...
Yeah. We're missing Chris Webber, of course, because he's on vacation. Dodging, as apparently, sharks and killer whales. They have actually spotted. This is really rare down at the beach.
Yeah, holy cow!
Right in the Gulf of Mexico, near the beach, not far from the beach. They have spotted orcas.
Wow,
killer whales, which is a rare sight.
Yeah, I wonder what's bringing them close by.
I mean, in the 15 years I lived there, I saw dolphins. I never saw one. I never saw one shark that I know of. I saw a couple of rays. They did have big whales that came through every once in a while, but that was rare. But I've never ever heard of orcas.
Interesting. I might have to look up and see what's brought them close by.
I don't know, but I mean, the orcas and sharks don't get along, so maybe the orcas are driving the sharks closer to the shoreline. I don't know.
That would make sense why they're butting heads so recently. I mean, they're so close to us.
Yeah. So remember, if you go to the beach, if you're headed down to the beach for a nice long weekend, the purple flag means that there are marine pests. People don't talk enough about the purple flag. Marine pests. Now that could be jellyfish, or that could be sharks.
It's a good color. Bad connotations with it, though.
A lot of difference between a jellyfish and a shark, but they both fall under the purple flag, I am told. And remember, I served as the Walton County flag czar for a period of time.
I think you forgot to add proudly on the back end of that right there.
Yeah, that's right. I was proud. I walked out there and I told people what the flags meant. That was my job. And we recorded and it was running all the cable channels there. So I was the South Walton County flag czar. I know of what I speak. Purple flags, you should take them seriously. Generally what happens, though, they'll put up a double red flag, and the double red flag means you cannot go into the water. And you're dumb if you do. So, people still do it, but they're not supposed to. They're flying helicopters down there and everything to keep an eye on whether or not they're sharks. Listen, coming up, I want to sort of tout people on the fact that it is Friday. In addition to wearing our flip-flops, it is that on Friday we do this thing called Phone Your FARB Friday. And we do it now at 4:35, and then we do it at 5:35. And this is probably, Mason, from a producing standpoint, this is the most difficult thing that you'll be asked to do all week long.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So, I'll be looking very carefully to see how your performance is on this particular task because it's hard. You got to screen the calls, and then you have to write in who it is so I know who I'm talking to and what the topic is, and you got to listen to me, and then we have to make a judgment at some point. I mean, it's really not a competition, but we do look and compare and contrast the 4:35 people to the 5:35 people.
Yeah, it's a rating you're rating me on how well I do, and then we're rating how well you guys call in.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want you just, getting there and spouting off. Well, you've got to be clear.
Yeah,
you got to be cogent. You got to be concise.
Exactly. Good responses, good conversation.
Comprehensible. I can think of a lot of C words that apply here. We really want you to bring your A game here.
Don't need you getting in cahoots.
That's right. So there you go. It'll be at 4:35. Get your thoughts together on whatever it is that's bugging you. And at this point, it's not cicadas, it's June bugs.
Yeah.
The cicadas are gone. Thank goodness. We were sitting out back of the house, cabana wife and I were sitting out there on the cabana, and she was just remarkable. She said, I'm so glad they're gone. And I said, really, they bugged you that much? Sorry for the pun. Yeah, she said, yes, they drove me nuts. I couldn't stand it. She said it was so loud. And I just, to me, it was like, Well, first of all, it reminded me of home because back in Texas, we had annual cicadas.
Yeah.
And they were louder than these and bigger, by the way.
Oh, I've seen them there.
Everything's bigger in Texas, right? And so, and the other thing is that, well, I don't know, that frequency that the cicadas stridulate at, that's the name, that's what that's called, stridulation.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
The stridulation frequency is a sound I hear in my head 24/7. So, I hear that sound all the time. So sometimes I don't even, people have played the sound of cicadas on the radio and I have headphones on. I can't hear it because I hear that all the time.
They just match and it's like perfect unison.
Tinnitus, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we got a lot of stuff coming up right now, though. Time for the news at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 3:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got plenty of sun. Gee, we dropped a degree. We're at 94 degrees now. We'll get the full weather forecast and a traffic report here in just a moment. Federal aviation authorities, they're investigating another incident involving a Boeing 737 MAX. It was a Southwest Airlines flight from Phoenix to Oakland when the plane started moving in rather unusual ways. Alex Stone has been following the story.
It was such a serious incident that the Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 has damage and has been grounded since May 25th. At some point, it was moved to Everett, Washington to a Boeing factory. As the plane was flying with 175 passengers, it entered what's called a Dutch roll. That's when a plane moves in two ways. It tips from wingtip to wingtip and its tail rocks side to side, putting the nose of the plane into a figure-8 motion. The pilots regained control, but now the NTSB and FAA are investigating.
Yeah, scary stuff. Mixed emotions as the demolition of the school building that was the site of the school shooting in Parkland, Florida. That started today. Here's Dave Packer.
After the school shooting that killed 17 students and staff at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, politicians, including Vice President Kamala Harris and members of Congress, toured Building 1200. The bullet holes, strewn backpacks, and blood left untouched. Congressman Jared Moskowitz, who attended Stoneman Douglas, said it's important for lawmakers to see what it looks like when a mass shooting comes to your high school. But the building stood as an open wound for parents, family members, and the community. Demolition began Friday. Dave Packer, ABC News.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Let me tell you about the good folks over at D.T. McCall and Sons. They have been in business in Middle Tennessee for more than 100 years. Now, when you have a company that's been in business for more than 100 years, you got to ask yourself, well, how did that happen? Because most family-owned businesses don't make it that long. Well, it happens because they have a reputation for treating you right. They have a reputation for selling great products at a good price, and they don't play games with you like the big box stores do. They will give you a good price on something, and they will not charge you then extra for the delivery, the setup, the haul away, none of that. The big box stores, they play games with you. And as I mentioned, they like to do business with other companies that do business in Middle Tennessee. They sell products whenever possible that are made in Middle Tennessee. There's a mattress selection that they have. I have one of them. It's a great mattress, and you would be very well served to have one if you need a new bedroom suite. So it's just an example of the things that they do. I mean, why would you want to send your dollars to some company that has a corporate office in Delaware when you could do business with a company that will keep the local dollars right here in Middle Tennessee? As I said, 5 convenient locations. To find out more about all the things they can do with furniture, appliances, anything you need for your house, just go to the website dtmccalls.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair all the way till 7 o'clock on this Friday. It's a steamy Friday. Now looking at a temperature of 94 degrees in the metropolitan area. There are new developments with regard to the Covenant shooting investigation that we've been talking about here on this particular program. First, I would say that if you heard the news earlier today, Ken Weaver did a brilliant synopsis of this particular story and where it now stands. But let me see if I can sort of add a little bit more detail to it. Brilliant, by the way, work by Ken Weaver, because this is the very complicated story. We are blessed to have someone like Ken Weaver who can cut through this very complicated stuff and explain it to you in ways that make sense, that everybody can follow. So, again, kudos to Ken Weaver for his excellent synopsis of this particular story. The Metro officer has now filed an affidavit in the court. suggesting they know who the whistleblower was that leaked the Covenant writings to the Tennessee Star, to this reporter, to Fox 17, and the Daily Wire. They are saying that it has to do with a whistleblower. The declaration filed by Lieutenant Alfredo Arevalo claims he handed a hard drive containing the Covenant investigative case to the whistleblower. This is former Lieutenant Garrett Davidson, who used to serve in the Office of Professional Accountability. Said he handed it to Davidson and to put it in the safe in his office. Former Lieutenant Garrett Davidson was the only person at the time who had the key and combination to the lock safe, according to the filing. Valo, who is an active member of the police department, confirmed in his filing that the documents leaked are from the killer's writings. In the 61-page report that Davidson attacked the Metro Nashville Police Department for a range of hot-button issues, and there's a whole investigation that's going on with that. When he first appeared on this program to talk about the 61-page complaint he has filed against the Metro Police Department, a complaint that is now being investigated, I asked him sort of a question about the Covenant investigation. I got a short answer from him. But he did talk about it, and he did say that he thought that the investigation was still outstanding, etc. Now, why this is important is because Davidson County Chancellor Judge Aisha Miles is the person who is handling this particular case, where there were some people who sued the police department for access to the writers, the Covenant shooters' writings in a journal. And then there were a whole bunch of people who joined that lawsuit saying, no, you shouldn't release it. Parents of some of the students at Covenant School, the school itself, the church, all joined in against that matter. There's so many lawyers involved in that case now, it's ridiculous. But one way or the other, it has been tied up in court now for the better part of a year or more, about a year and a half, actually, very close to a year and a half. So, that is why everybody wanted to be involved in getting those documents. Now, the Tennessee Star and Michael Patrick Leahy, who did a lot of reporting. He put out some 30 stories based on the documents that he received on this matter. And we did some reporting on it, but we're not litigants in that particular case. Michael Patrick Leahy is a litigant, so he's being called into court on Monday, and the judge wants to look at the evidence and decide whether or not Michael Patrick Leahy should be held in contempt of court. That is what is pending right now. So here's that was Channel 2's report. Here's Channel 4. Covenant shooters' writings may have been leaked by Metro whistleblower. Court filings suggest. Here's Channel 5. New filings allege connection between the Metro Nashville Police Department whistleblower and the Covenant records leak. I am looking now at the actual affidavit that was signed and submitted to the court by Lieutenant Alfredo Arevalo, where he mentions the Tennessee Star. He mentions the reporting that has been done on my program. And I will say it's an accurate recitation of what we have discussed on this program. And then he concludes by condemning the actions of the leaker in his affidavit. Here we go. I'm appalled that this open investigation file has been leaked to the media. I'm saddened by the impact that this leak must have had on the victims and the family of the Covenant School shooting. I am aware that Metro Nashville Police Department wants to know how the leak occurred and who was involved internally, and I've been told steps are being taken to ascertain how this information left Metro Nashville Police Department's custody. So that is his affidavit on the matter and the basis of all these stories that I have just read to you. By the way, the Tennessee Star puts out their story today that all of this just confirms the authenticity of the Covenant Killer Journal obtained by the Tennessee Star, which of course it does. So, look, I have reported a great deal on the police investigation. I have obtained only 2 pages of the so-called manifesto or the diary. It's really not a manifesto. It's more like a diary or a journal. There were two journals that were found in the car at the day of the shooting. And apparently the Tennessee Star, according to what they have written in their stories, they have about 80 pages from those two journals. I have had two. Neither the Tennessee Star nor I have published those documents. We have reported some things that we found in them that we found interesting and we thought were newsworthy, but we have not published any of those documents. Now, Fox 17 published 2 pages. I can tell you that the Daily Wire, which is has apparently a bunch of documents, they ran just a boatload of the documents, and they did publish a great number of them. So, yeah, was there a leak? Yeah, there was a leak. Now, your question comes to me, well, Brian, what do you have to say about what you know about all this? So I've thought about it. I put down my thoughts in writing. Right now, the Metro Police Department suggests that they know who leaked the information. The truth is, I can neither confirm or deny whether they are right because I do not know the source of the leak. I received the documents. I reviewed the documents. It was instantly clear that they were authentic. I believe such materials were newsworthy, and I did what any good journalist would do in such a situation. I reported the information to my audience without fear or without favor. That's what a good journalist does. Now, some may condemn me for doing that. That's fine. I do not apologize for doing what a journalist is supposed to do. Remember, there are quite a few news organizations who have petitioned this court to have this information made public. So there is little question that the journals in the police investigation are of intense public interest. What I did was report on what I found that were in these documents that I thought advanced the story. But here's what I think is being missed right now by most other news organizations. Number one, investigators have been told by at least one of the shooter's medical caretakers that the shooter, Audrey Elizabeth Hale, fantasized about carrying out a school shooting. Number two, under Tennessee law, medical professionals who heard that have a duty to report that and take actions to make sure she cannot carry out such an attack. Number three, the police investigation, which is still open apparently, focuses on whether that occurred and if it did occur, what actions were taken. In other words, what actions were taken to make sure the shooter did not carry out a school attack. Number four, the church, the school, and Covenant parents are fighting the release of the information in this particular lawsuit. The lawsuit that's been tied up, the potential release of the diaries for more than a year. Number five, the Tennessee statute of limitations for bringing a civil case is 1 year. That deadline has come and gone. Now, number six, information that is in the diaries and in the police case file cannot be used by any litigant who might want to bring a civil lawsuit. These facts suggest to me that it is at least possible that those seeking to stop or delay the release of this information may have done so as a defensive legal maneuver to prevent civil cases from being brought in this particular case. That is what it appears to me as I look at all of the facts that I have before me, and the number of facts that I have before me are considerable. I have a lot of information that I have not reported from the limited number of documents that I have. But from what I can see and what I am able to discern from looking at these documents, what I've just told you is my best understanding of the situation. And the question that I have is, if anybody wants to look down their nose, other news organizations want to look down their nose at what I have done, that's fine, that's your right. But then why are so many of these same news organizations involved in trying to get the information in this court case? The court case actually has prevented them from releasing this information. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen on Monday at this show cause hearing where Michael Patrick Lay, I've not been summoned to the court. So, I mean, if I go, I'll go as an observer. But I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here. But it is interesting to me that this case has been tied up for so long. And anybody who might have wanted to bring a case based on the information that is being tied up in this court case, they've lost the ability to do so because the statute of limitations has run out. So that's what I think this is all about. It's what it appears to me. That's the conclusions that I am drawing. Look, it was a sad day, and it's tragic that we lost 6 lives, 3 innocent 9-year-olds and 3 adults who will never walk this earth again. And it is a great loss to the families there, and it's a great loss to that school. And is it tragic? Yes. Is it painful? Yes, I understand that it is. And I have nothing but empathy for the families. But there is a real interest in this particular story. The governor, the state legislature, a whole bunch of other people have said that they think this information should be made public because the public needs to know. There needs to be transparency about this case. With the case that we have now, where this stuff is all locked up in a big lawsuit and there's 50, 60 lawyers involved in it, there is absolutely no transparency about what happened and what we know about the shooter and where the police investigation stands. I am not at all regretful of my decision to bring this information to you, and I hope that it has been helpful in trying to understand exactly what is going on in this particular investigation and this particular case. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, listen, time to upgrade her diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0% interest for 5 years. Don't miss the killer offer from Genesis Diamonds, 5 years, 0 interest financing. Not just on engagement rings, on earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry, pre-owned Rolex watches. You buy now, pay nothing down, spread your payments over 5 years with 0% interest. That's a $5,000 gift, comes out to about $85 a month. That luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariner, Datejust, or Explorer starts at about $150 a month. This is an insane offer from the jeweler that's always finding ways to bring you more value. All GIA certified diamonds are included in this: round cuts, princess cuts, ovals, pear shapes, cushion cuts, emerald cuts. Whether you get a $5,000 diamond or a $50,000 diamond, you can spread your payments over 5 whole years. Lab-grown diamonds are also included in this, and you'll get the Genesis value price on anything and spread your payments over 5 years, 0% interest. But hurry, this is a limited time offer that ends on June 30th. TikTok, it's the 14th, folks. You got to take advantage of it before the end of the month. It will not be extended. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Details and more at genesisdiamonds.com.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years. I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got my first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to, if you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing, you had that tie on.
Oh, wow.
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, come on, April 1st.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair, and glad that you're with us on this steamy Friday. I'm looking at my thermometer. It is 92 degrees. Is that what you have there at the thermometer at the station?
Got it nice and hot at 94 right now.
94 downtown,
Yeah.
92 in bucolic Watertown. All right, well, there you go. Taking a look at the markets, Dow Jones Industrials were down 57 points today. That's really just essentially flat. The S&P was down, but only about 2 points. The NASDAQ, however, eked out its fifth straight record close, and that means that it basically has notched a 3% gain this particular week, ending the day at 17,688. That is a new record. So a mixed board today. Everybody's looking at the elections and wondering, how it's going to mean, what it's going to mean for taxes. We've heard that President Trump wants to cut taxes, but what do the Democrats want to do? For more on that, let's check in with Ty Draper over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, Ty.
Yeah, hey, Brian, what else is hot outside is some of these tax plans that President Biden's looking forth to combat some of the things that are expiring in 2025. More than 60% of tax filers will be affected by that, leading to higher tax brackets, lower standard deduction, a lower child tax credit, and increasing estate taxes. The president supposedly plans to extend the tax cuts to the middle class while making the wealthy and corporations pay for their fair share. Biden plans to target families over $400,000 and then implement a global minimum tax. How would he enforce the changes? The $80 billion in new funding for the IRS, that's how.
All right, thank you very much, Ty Draper. Find out what Ty, John Maxon, and all the good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 past the hour.
Good afternoon. It is 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunny and hot. 94 degrees on Music Row. We'll get that blistering weekend forecast to you along with the latest traffic report. Answering questions in Brussels today, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. He was asked about Vladimir Putin laying out terms for a ceasefire in Ukraine.
He is not in my view, not in a position to dictate to Ukraine what it must do to pursue peace. Putin can end this war today.
Secretary Austin spoke to reporters after a NATO nuclear planning group meeting in Brussels. Pope Francis has become the first pontiff to address a G7 summit. The Pope met with world leaders for an official family photo. That also included 10 other nations. That all happened in Italy. He also met with G7 leaders in a series of bilaterals, but it was his speech on artificial intelligence that brought him to the event. ABC's Patrick Revel, he has more from the summit.
The Pope led a group discussion around artificial intelligence where the world leaders listened to a speech by Pope Francis. He was basically speaking about the opportunities but also the threats that artificial intelligence poses for humanity, including also calling for a ban on autonomous weapons.
We are also learning new details today in the electrocution of an American couple at a resort in Mexico. Here's Alex Stone.
In a new lawsuit filed, attorneys for the couple say Lizette Zambrano and her husband Jorge Guillen from El Paso were on vacation at the Sonoran Sea Resort in western Mexico. Jorge entered the hot tub first and was immediately overcome by electrical current and went underwater. Lizette then responded to save him and was shocked as well and fell into the water. Other hotel guests came to their aid. They got shocked. Jorge died. Lizette is still in critical condition at a Phoenix hospital.
There is a development in the search for missing 8-month-old Maya Rudd in Kentucky. Kentucky State Police detectives say they found an infant's body consistent with Maya earlier this afternoon. Troopers say the decomposed body was hidden inside her family's home. As has been reported, 8 people have now been arrested, including Maya's parents and 4 of her grandparents. Most of those arrests were for drugs and other warrants. The charges, however, for Maya's parents, Tesla Tucker and Cage Rudd, and her grandfather, Ricky Smith, include child abuse and abandonment of a minor. That is the latest news, traffic and weather. There next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Good afternoon. It is 8 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. We're already into hour number 2 on this Friday. It is June 14th. Hope that you're having a good day. Let's get you home safely so you can have a nice, relaxing weekend at the house. You can stay under that air conditioning and remain cool. It's going to be pretty warm, I think, tomorrow. About 94, I think, is where we're headed. So get ready. It's time for a 2020 update. Here we go. Only one number to bring you today, and that is from the battleground state of Arizona, according to Rasmussen. If the election were held today and it were strictly between Biden and Trump, Trump would win by 7 points in the state of Arizona. In a five-way matchup, that is Trump, Biden, RFK Jr., Weston, Stein, Trump would win by 4. Isn't that interesting? But also of note from the state of Arizona, Kari Lake is behind Ruben Gallegos by 4 points. He's in the hunt, but she is trailing by 4 points in the state of Arizona. I want to talk more about the state of Virginia, which I know quite a deal about because in all the years that I was in Washington, often we were required to cover elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and you learn a thing or two about how politics work in that particular state. There are some battleground counties that you look at very closely. One of them is Loudoun County. But in Northern Virginia, it's very heavily blue, very solidly blue. These are the people who live very close to the District of Columbia, many of them government workers, or they work somehow in some kind of government-related job, and that's a very intensely blue area. As you get downstate, it's more reliably red, with the exception of the core of the city, of the 2 largest cities in the state. Where they are very blue. So it's been sort of, when you add all that together, it comes up sort of purple. But the truth is that Virginia hasn't backed a Republican for president in 2 decades. And the question that many people are asking is it about to flip? And the polling data that is coming out of the Commonwealth of Virginia suggests that it is tied, which is remarkable because I think the Democrats were counting on that as being a reliably blue state. But, they recently elected a Republican governor, Youngkin, and he's doing good things. And so it's entirely possible that this state is one of the battleground states. It's up for grabs, and as I say, a dead even tie right now could go either way. Early polls show Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, cutting into the Democrat president's lead. And it served as a wake-up call for Virginia Democrats who acknowledge headwinds, with voters dissatisfied with Biden's leadership. Republicans say if Virginia is even remotely on the table for Trump, Biden is in serious trouble in traditional battleground states such as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I think Virginia can be a real possibility for Republicans, said Sarah Chamberlain, president of the Republican Main Street Partnership, a group that supports center-leaning House Republicans. North Virginia is so Democratic, and that's where the numbers are. So I'm not there yet on Trump winning it, but, she added, Trump's team is doing the right thing. Let's see how it plays out. This is a part of a Wall Street Journal story. They go into great detail. It's about a 10-page story, which I don't want to spend all my time talking about this one topic because there's so much more to talk about. But the bottom line is Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, is up for grabs right now. Here from PJ Media, a story written by a guy named Rick Moran. Trump grabbing the youth vote in unprecedented numbers. The 18 to 29 demographic has usually been a huge problem for Republicans since the Vietnam War. Only one Republican has been able to capture a near majority of the youth vote, and that was Ronald Reagan. He still lost to Jimmy Carter by 1 point in the 18 to 21 demo and was tied in the 22 to 29 age group. But things are different in 24. Recent public polls suggest that Trump is either tied or ahead of Biden in the 18 to 29 age group, a very big problem for Biden. In 2020, Biden received 60% of the 18 to 29-year-old demographic. The 2020 election was an outrider for youth vote turnout. Nearly 55% of the 18 to 29 demo voted in 2020, compared to an average turnout in the 3 previous elections in the mid-40s. So they did turn out, and they voted for Biden. The gambit is not working for them this time, though. In fact, most voters of all ages have tuned out the Trump wants to be dictator rhetoric. Axios reports that public polling suggests a significant shift toward Trump could be coming among the country's youngest voters. They point to a New York Times Siena poll of likely voters that has President Biden with a 2-point lead over Trump among those between the ages of 18 to 29. And a recent Q poll has Trump ahead by a point among registered voters 18 to 34. So there you go. The polls could be wrong. Pollsters still have trouble reaching the 18 to 29 group. Landlines are still the preferred method of contacting voters for surveys, and young people don't have them. I'm an old person, and I don't have one. It's a riddle that pollsters have yet to solve. Because of that, surveys of the youth vote come up with red flags attached, they say. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I think that there's signs that the youth vote is moving toward Trump and away from Biden. But, I mean, he doesn't have to win all of them. Just taking votes away from a reliable demographic that Democrats have counted on for years is helpful to the Republican cause, and it's very much something that the Democrats need to be very worried about. Everybody's talking about, how can you be so enthusiastic, Brian? Because, the Democrats are going to cheat. I mean, I hear this all the time from listeners. Democrats are going to cheat. Democrats are going to cheat. They're going to cheat. They'll cheat. They'll cheat. They'll cheat. Okay, I hear you. But here's what I would say to that. From justthenews.com. GOP goes on an election integrity offense before November with lawsuits, congressional probes, and laws. Republicans, unlike in past years, this is different, have prioritized election integrity with new laws, lawsuits, and congressional investigative subpoenas ahead of the November general election. They've already scored some major wins against Democrat-led jurisdictions. The multifaceted approach in 2024 contrasts with the way the GOP has operated in years past. In 2020, there were as many as 400 lawsuits brought by both Republicans and Democrats regarding election procedures and laws as election administration was quickly changed during the COVID lockdowns. In September of 2022, the Amistad Project reviewed the 400 cases and found that a greater percentage of lawsuits brought by Republicans were won on the merits over those brought by Democrats. Overall, Republicans brought fewer court cases in 132 than the Democrats regarding the 2020 election, as Democrats sued to change election laws before the November election. This presidential cycle, both Congress and the GOP are using their respective tools to ensure elections will be secure. Congress, House Administration Committee Chairman Brian Steele subpoenaed 15 cabinet officials to for documents related to Biden bucks, which is Joe Biden's executive order to turn as many federal agencies as possible into get-out-the-vote centers across all the states. They're calling the cabinet secretaries on the carpet regarding Executive Order 10419, often referred to by critics as Biden bucks. So that is underway, and there's a whole other bunch of things that are being done right now by Republicans to make sure that the rolls are clean and that a lot of the things that the Democrats have done in the past that they sort of look dodgy are being addressed in a court of law right now. And so we'll see how that all plays out. Voter ID laws have gone in some places. And a lot of the sort of, I think, bad decisions we made during the COVID-19 lockdowns have sort of been slowly but surely picked away at. Not completely gone, but they are gone in a lot of different ways. Yesterday, I love this story. Yesterday, the president was on Capitol Hill meeting with a bunch of Republicans, Senate side, House side, ton of people over at the what they call the Capitol Hill Club. It's basically where the RNC is located. And during his comments, former President Donald Trump suggested that his vice presidential pick was probably in the room during his Thursday meeting. He says, I have sort of a pretty good idea. Look, we have some pretty talented people. I have a pretty good idea. But he did say that inside the meeting. It said people have come out and talked about it, saying that his his likely vice president could well be in the room there with him. Well, who was in the room with him? Representative Byron Donalds was there. Representative Elise Stefanik of New York was there. Senators J.D. Vance of Ohio, Tim Scott of South Carolina, Marco Rubio of Florida were there. And I think those are names that have been tossed about as a potential vice presidential running mate. But then there's this. Pay close attention, my friends. I'm about to drop something that I only have seen this in one place, but it sort of caused my eyebrows to go up. You ready? Former President Trump met Thursday with Senators Marco Rubio and Eric Schmidt to run through policy and other topics that might come up at the first presidential debate later this month. Multiple sources have confirmed to The Hill. Trump had what was described as a policy discussion with the two senators during his visit to Washington, D.C., where he held court with House Republicans, Senate Republicans, and CEOs as part of a business roundtable event. Schmidt is a close Trump ally, and Rubio is being vetted as a potential running mate on the Republican ticket. Does that mean anything to you? I think it does. I mean, it could be just that, Rubio's a smart guy. He's very good on policy. He knows how to enunciate these arguments very well. He's well-read. He's plugged in. He knows what's going on, and is a serious individual. Schmidt is just a long time. He's not on the list. Nobody's talked about Schmidt as a potential running mate, but they have talked about Rubio. And so he's in Washington, and he meets with a lot of different people, but he spends time with Marco Rubio. I don't know. Sir caught my attention. I think it's pretty interesting. Finally, the DNC has bought 10 billboards in Milwaukee, and they intend to put up signs quoting what they said former President Trump said in that meeting about Milwaukee being a horrible city. Well, if it's truly, it is a horrible city. Let's be honest about it. It's Milwaukee. It's a horrible city. I mean, but he didn't say it. According to a number of people in the room, he did not say this. He simply said they've had a problem with crime. Now, that is the way it's been characterized by people in the room, but the Democrats don't care about what did or didn't happen. They're going to run with it anyway. They're going to put up 10 billboards around Milwaukee that feature Trump's face and the remark quoted by Punchbowl News. That's right, Punchbowl News. Yeah, that's a reliable source, isn't it? He said it's a horrible city. No, he said they have a crime problem that's horrible. So there you go. I guess they're going to go ahead and run with it, even though it's been knocked down by a lot of people that were in the room that day. Yesterday, said, he didn't say it. He didn't say it. He didn't say it. It might be true, but he didn't say it. 21. It could have been Nashville. I just want to point that out. This big convention that's going to bring all this money to Milwaukee could have been bringing all this money to Nashville if it weren't for the actions of our illustrious city council and our mayor at the time. 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. A lot of diagnoses out there, and you can get a pill for just about anything, but not all diagnoses are accurate. Not all pills may be good for you. And when you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, maybe it's a good idea to get a second opinion before you make a major decision. Eurofix is the home for second opinions. Before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, why don't you go to Eurofix and get your second opinion? I mean, Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. At Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. Located in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now their newest location in Mount Juliet, right across the street from the Dairy Queen on Mount Juliet Road. Listen, why don't you call 844-EUROFIX? That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. And when you do, please tell them that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
The U.S. Attorney General, well, he need not worry about going to his own trial. We'll explain. And we'll have today's closing money news. Those stories coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. Time for some stuff from the swamp. Here's more on that thing we were talking about just a moment ago. I mean, it looks like Republicans caught the Democrats red-handed, trying to pull a fast one with an executive order from the president, which told every agency in the federal government that reports to the executive branch, which is all of them, to get out there and do everything that was possible to get people registered to vote. Now, that sounds on its face like a pretty good idea. We want people to vote, right? But it depends on where the agencies then looked in order to find people and find processes that could encourage people to get registered to vote. Did they look in Republican circles or did they look in Democrat circles? What do you think? The early indication is that they went to the Democrat, to reliable Democrat organizations around the country. So, you know, they are working hard to register people, but it seems that most of them are Democrats, not Republicans, as you might expect. Once again, it is the Biden administration weaponizing the levers of government for their own political purposes. And they got caught red-handed about it. But House officials are not standing by idly. They are calling, they've sent out subpoenas, rather, to the top 15 Biden officials, asking them to explain exactly what you have done with regard to this executive order. Among those, you ready, who are being summoned, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Justice, whether that be the Attorney General, the Education Department, the Energy Department, Health and Human Services, House and Urban Development, Interior Department, Labor Department, Office of Management and Budget, the State Department, the Transportation Department, and the Treasury Department. Oh, and don't forget the Agricultural Department. They're sent subpoenas out to all of them saying, we want information on what you've done and who you've met with and what you have accomplished. And they want to find out whether it was bipartisan or, as it appears in the initial going, very partisan. So they're going to call him up on the carpet. The person who did this is Brian Stile. He's the House Administration Committee chairman, Republican from Wisconsin. And Stile says that the documents requested in the subpoenas will have a major impact on their decision about whether to pass legislation that would counteract what they have done. As the committee continues to investigate this issue, the strategic plans and other documents requested will inform the committee on what additional legislation, if any, needs to be considered to clarify that the president's executive order does not enable executive branch agencies to focus on voter registration. They shouldn't be doing it at all, really. They should just stay out of it. You could say it's a violation of the so-called Hatch Act. It's not so-called. There is a thing called the Hatch Act, says you're not supposed to get involved in politics. But they say, well, it's bipartisan. It's not bipartisan. You know what they were doing, and they got caught red-handed. And now, they're going to come in there and try to muddy up the waters and claim that they didn't do anything wrong, but it sure is interesting, isn't it? House Republicans have narrowly passed a defense bill. Politico doesn't like it, which means it's probably a pretty good defense bill. The tactic, they say, is loaded up with the bill's loaded up with culture war issues, says Politico. Okay, I don't know about that. They adopted amendments to defund a beleaguered U.S. military pier off the coast of Gaza. Hold on to that thought for a moment. To deliver humanitarian aid to Palestinians. Republicans also want to fight to block Pentagon funding to bring Palestinian refugees to the U.S., though the United States is not doing that now. There are other things in there as well. The Democrats don't like it, but it passed in the House of Representatives, and this is the train leaving the House. It'll be interesting to see what happens when it arrives. The choo-choo arrives on the other side of the Capitol. Speaking of that pier, there's a lot of information about that, saying that that the Washington, the administration is not telling you the truth about the problems with that Gaza pier. They say food is flowing, but all the data seem to suggest that that pier has been a $32 million mistake. 31 past the hour now.
Good afternoon. It is 4:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've still got plenty of sunshine. We're at 93 degrees. A complete hot weekend forecast is on the way. We'll get you another Jack Womack traffic report, too. The Justice Department says it will not be charging their boss, the nation's top law enforcement official, with a crime. Here's ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
It's a formal response to the House's vote this week finding the Attorney General to be in contempt of Congress. Republicans demanded the audio of President Biden's interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur. But since Biden has asserted executive privilege over the tapes, the department says the transcripts will have to suffice. The Assistant Attorney General now says it's been determined that Merrick Garland did not commit a crime in his response, and he won't be prosecuted.
Now we turn to today's closing money news with Chuck Sievertson.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. The S&P 500 index closed 2 points lower, the Dow down 58, and the Nasdaq up 21. Leaders of the Group of 7 wealthy democracies agreed in Italy to engineer a $50 billion loan to Ukraine funded by interest earned on profits from Russia's frozen central bank assets. A federal judge says the government's antitrust case against Google over its advertising technology will go to trial in September. The artificial intelligence startup Perplexity AI has raised tens of millions of dollars from the likes of Jeff Bezos and other prominent tech investors for its mission to rival Google in the search engine business. Federal regulators are investigating how parts made with titanium that was sold with falsified quality documentation wound up in Boeing and Airbus passenger jets in recent years. Those companies say planes containing the parts are still safe to fly.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
We are just moments away from round one of Phone Your FARB Friday. Phone lines are open at 615-737-9986. Time to get on the line now. In the meantime, let me tell you about Nashville Golden Coin. How many times have you heard someone describe something as being the gold standard? Well, when it comes to finding an investment that protects you from runaway inflation, gold is the gold standard. It's a tried and true store of value consistent across generations. Maybe you've thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you feel like you don't have the knowledge you need to make a smart decision. Honestly, that's the way I felt, but I got the professional guidance I needed at Nashville Golden Coin. Here's the way it works. You make an appointment. Then you sit down one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Golden Coin. They'll answer all your questions and help you make the precious metals investment that is right for you. It's friendly, you will learn a lot, and you will never be subjected to a high-pressure sales pitch. You know, gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. And my friends at Nashville Golden Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. And if you have some old coins laying around gathering dust, bring them along. You might be surprised just how much they're worth. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, everybody, you know what that means. It's time for this little thing that we do on Friday called Phone Your FARB Friday. That's right. We want to know what's on your mind, and the way that you participate in this little game is that you call us at 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-WWTN. Now, maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place. Well, it won't be a cicada at this point. It'll be a June bug because we are in June. But I'm in a place where you shouldn't have a bug. I mean, maybe that happened to you. Just climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries because, as I like to point out, it is a family show. Now, I don't like to make this a competition. But we do this twice. We do this on Friday. We do it at 4:35. We do it at 5:35. And we do compare to see who has the better session. Is it the 4 o'clock people? Is it the 5 o'clock? Please, no wagering. But again, remember, we will be making that determination to see who did a better job. All right, are you ready for this? Let's get started. I see the phone. We have a couple of phone lines open, but a lot of people ready to romp here. Let's start with Ron in Beech Grove. Hello, Ron. Hello, Ron. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind, Ron?
Yes, sir. Love your show. Listen, everybody's talking about everything on Trump, but he was set up like a bowling pin when he was in court. Now, what are we going to do when he goes to talk to that judge and they put him in jail for a year? What are we going to do then?
Well, number one, most of the people who've looked at this say that they don't think that they will put him in jail, that it would be very unusual. Most people, most of the legal experts say not likely that they would do that. Who knows? I mean, they could do something like, say, 1 night in jail just to make the point. They could give him a jail sentence and then suspend it. That would sort of also make the point. But I think they understand that if this guy goes to jail, given the way that things have gone in the past, it will only secure his position as the next president of the United States. So I don't think that's likely to happen. But we'll keep watching it. These people are unpredictable. But if they do that, they understand the reaction that there would be in America, and I think that they've sort of learned. I mean, none of the guilty verdicts, 34 counts, right? 34 counts guilty, hasn't moved the numbers at all. It hasn't hurt him one iota. It may have helped him a little bit because he raised a ton of money after that. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to turn into a thing where he does jail time. But we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. Let's go to Cliff in White House. Good afternoon,
hey,
Cliff. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind, Cliff?
Well, I had a thought dealing with the school shooting. The school and these parents are trying to, keep all that information out. I'm just wondering if something happened when this girl was going to school there that was so bad that they don't want it to come out. It could be real embarrassing or whatnot for the school, and that they're trying to cover up something.
I will tell you that in my limited look at some of these documents, and listening to the comments of the investigators, there is a sense that it's a mystery. I mean, the people over at Covenant say that they remember her as a delightful student, and her mom and dad said that they felt that her time there was very positive. It's really hard to understand what it was that made the shooter decide to go after this particular school. She did also think about shooting up a middle school that she attended, but she ended up coming back to Covenant, and I don't know why, except that she seemed to reject. It's a school church, that. Just a theory to think about. She did seem to have some very difficult relationship with her parents with regard to religion, and the things that her parents believe she rejected according to the diaries and the journals that have been out there. So that may be part of it, that it was a school church. I don't know. To me, it seems as if the lawsuit has been filed as a defensive legal maneuver to keep civil suits from being filed. It's that's the theory I'm coming up with more and more as I look at it all. Cliff, thank you for the call. Greatly appreciate it. Lindsay in Pleasant Shade. Hello, Lindsay. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind, Lindsay?
Hey, Brian. Not to be too off topic, but it is a Friday, and I am here to roast Matt Murphy.
Well, why would you want to do that? Lovely Matt Murphy. He doesn't deserve any.
I know he's a teddy bear. He's my favorite, but the man on his 1,000 million watt soapbox does not own an FM radio.
Yeah, I know. He's talked about that.
What in the world? And Matt Morey claimed the same.
That's not entirely true because he has a car.
Well, that's just not enough. Everybody knows what to get Matt for Father's Day.
Yeah, I'll make sure he gets one. I found these great little radios that you charge up with a USB charger, and they go for hours and hours and hours. They're just amazing little radios, and I'll get him one of those. Thank you for that, Lindsay. Greatly appreciate the call. Let's go to Mike in Mike just went away. Let's go to Brian. Let's go to Bo in Portland. Bo, hello. You're on with Brian on the Drive.
Good afternoon, my friend and radio buddy.
Yeah, what's going on, Bo?
Well, I'm a member of American Legion Post 75 here in Portland, and today being Flag Day, we have an extraordinary flag retirement ceremony that is second to none. And I just wanted to point out to anybody that's out there listening that if they have a flag that needs to be retired, come on down, please. It's 107 Legion Drive in Portland. And God bless America.
Legion Drive. Well, that 107 Legion Drive, where was that again? In Portland?
Portland.
All right. That's a great idea, and I'm glad that you do that. When I was a kid, we spent a lot of time, by the way, got a lot of phone lines open, 615-737-9986. Got a lot of time. First-time callers encouraged to call. But when I was a kid, we took that kind of stuff very carefully, very seriously. I mean, there was a process that we went through, when we folded up the flag at the end of the day, and then we carefully unfolded it the next morning and ran it up the flagpole and did everything. And nowadays, nobody seems to do that anymore. Nobody teaches kids proper flag etiquette. And I think it's a tragedy that we don't do better with the American flag, and we should teach our kids respect for the flag. I still, like right now, I have a flag on display behind me. I have a flag in my garage downstairs that's on display, and I've been thinking about putting up a flagpole out in front of the house. I would like to do that, but I mean, I really believe in treating the flag with respect and folding it properly and storing it properly. And now, I remember going to pick up my daughter at her junior high school and middle school in Maryland. And every day at the end of school, the custodian would just come out and bring down the flag and just throw it over his shoulder and walk in the building. That's how they treated the flag. So that you have gone out of your way to, when a flag gets tattered, there's only one proper way to dispose of it, and these folks know how to do it. So that's a flag retirement ceremony at 107 Legion Drive in Portland. I bet you that other American Legion posts around the area can help you out with that as well. How about Nicole in Nolansville? Nicole, you're up next on the Drive. What do you say?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. What's up?
So my question is, do we really think Biden's going to be the presidential nominee come the convention, let alone in November?
I don't. I think. I
agree with you, by the way, but
yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but look at this guy. Did you see him over in France? Did you see him in Italy? He's a zombie. He's a walking zombie. And it's embarrassing.
He has dementia. Also, my mother-in-law is going through it, so I know he's got the dementia shuffle that goes on. I get it. But who's our backup then? Who is their backup?
Well, I don't know, but here's my theory. I'll give you my theory, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think, number one, they're going to give him one debate. And if he comes in and just, is remarkable and puts aside all of the concerns about his age, which I don't think is going to happen because, they can jack him up with some kind of cocktail that they give him, cocktail of drugs. I don't know what it is they're giving him, but they can jack him up and he's good for an hour. But remember, he's got to get out there and do a couple of hours of a debate with no teleprompter. No earpiece, no guidance. It'll look pretty shabby. He'll make a lot of mistakes. They'll spend days trying to clean up the messes and everybody's going to be watching. Now, he may have energy, but I'm not sure he's going to be performing at top speed because I don't think he's capable of doing that. Then that would mean that everybody, if it was a bad performance, I think people will come to him and say, I'm sorry, you've got to step aside. And by the way, I would watch with great interest what happens at the end of this month. 27th is the debate, right, of this month. And so that's the first debate. At the end of the month, at about that time, the Supreme Court will be ending its session. And the question I have is what's going to happen with Sotomayor? Will Sotomayor, will she step down, and would they give that then to Kamala? Then that would it doesn't change the makeup of the Supreme Court, but it would be something that she could accept and not lose face. Then they come to Joe Biden and say, you can't do this. You've got to step aside. And then it'd be a wide open convention. The convention is set for, that's August 19th through the 22nd, I think it is. So they would have time then to sort of figure it out between then. That's my working theory. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I don't think he'll be the nominee ultimately. If they do, I'll be shocked, stunned, and amazed. 50 minutes now past the hour. Good round, everybody. Nice job. If you didn't get through this time, then call back, and when we do it again at 5:30, it is time to take a commercial break at 51 minutes past the hour. Let me tell you about the folks over at Beacon Capital Management and a question for you. Are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? A lot of people don't think about taxes when they get to retirement. You could be paying well over what you should be paying on your taxes in retirement. You could be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. But Beacon Capital Management is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases on the horizon, your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Just call this number, 615-488-9303, or visit their website, askbeaconnow.com.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years. I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
The U.S. Supreme Court striking down a ban on bump stocks. We'll hear from the mechanism's inventor. The cleanup from the massive Florida flooding has begun, and the source of the leaked Covenant school shooting documents. That source has been named in a court filing. We'll have those stories at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it is 57 minutes now past the hour. Listen, you know what? If you were worried about mosquitoes, and this summertime, so mosquitoes are the thing you want to watch out for. Here's a couple of things. Now, it is true, according to this article that I'm reading from the University of Washington biology professor, that certain people get bitten more than others, and that's just the way it goes. It's just they like some people more than they like others, but there are certain colors that you can wear that will keep the mosquitoes away, and certain colors that attract them. They don't like white and green, and they do like red and black. So if you're wearing something red, you may be attracting mosquitoes, and that's one way you can help keep them away. Don't wear red when you go outside, because the skeeters will get you. It's 59 minutes now past the hour.
Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Yeah, still plenty of sunshine and still 93 degrees. A full forecast and the latest traffic report. They're on the way. A decorated Air Force veteran and father of 4 is the creator of the bump stock back in 2017. A man named Jeremiah Cottle, he's the inventor. He spoke to ABC News today after the Supreme Court struck down that ban on the bump stocks.
I believe that the justices made a good ruling. This is a win for the American people.
Now we head down to South Florida. After the worst of this week's torrential rains, the cleanup has begun. The flooding there has been monumental. Dave Packer has more.
Rain could still fall, but forecasters say the worst of the monster storms that dumped up to 20 inches of rain in southern Florida have passed. Floodwaters have begun to recede. France Lumine's North Miami home flooded.
It's like a wave coming to the house.
Now comes the cleanup neighbor Angelo Ferreris.
I can tell it's gotten to a lot of our neighbors' homes. I've seen them walking by with, bags of clothes.
The state providing some 100 pumps to remove water from affected areas.
Back here in Nashville, a court filing says a former Metro Police lieutenant is the source of a leak of documents from that Covenant school shooter, Audrey Hale. Here's WTN's own Ken Weaver.
News 2 says Lieutenant Alfredo Arevalo claims he handed a hard drive containing the Covenant investigative case file to former Lieutenant Garrett Davidson to place in a safe located in his office, and that Davidson is the only person who had the key to the safe. Tennessee Star editor Michael Leahy claims the newspaper received documents from a source close to the investigation and has been publishing those documents. Nashville Chancellor Aisha Miles has ordered Leahy to court on Monday to explain how that is not a reason for contempt of court proceedings. As for former Lieutenant Davidson, he is the whistleblower who filed a 61-page complaint against the Metro Nashville Police Department recently. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
North of the city in Gallatin, one person was critically injured in a house explosion this morning. Police and fire crews were called to the area of Airport Road and Coles Ferry Road at about 7:45 this morning. First responders got there and found debris just scattered everywhere and what was left of a home still on fire. At least one person is in the hospital with severe burns. Officials believe the explosion was caused by a natural gas leak. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes, almost 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It is the 14th day of June. It is Friday, and I know you're anxious to get home and jump quickly from your air-conditioned car to your air-conditioned home, because right now we have 91 degrees here in Bucolic, Watertown, about the same downtown. So it is plenty hot. And did you hear the forecast? I should just look because I got to know what I'm in for too here. You know, I got yard work needs to be done. So you know exactly what are we looking for with regard to these forecasts. Mine says that today The high was 91. Well, it was actually a little higher than that. Tomorrow, 91. Sunday, 94. Some are saying, depending on which forecast you look at, saying that we could have temperatures in the upper 90s on Sunday, that's sweltering. I mean, summer has not arrived yet, but it has arrived, hasn't it, really? Honestly? So there you go. You need to take it easy out there this weekend. And as I am, I'm being reminded because next week I have to go see the Dermy doc. You know how that is? You know, as people of my age and my era, which is an old era, we didn't have a thing called sunblock or sunscreen. We had suntan oil, which was not the right thing to do. And so a lot of us are paying the price for that now. And I just say, take a moment and put on some sunscreen. Wear a broad-brimmed hat. I think you would look fabulous in a broad-brimmed hat. I'm wearing a cowboy hat these days when I mow the yard. And, I may have to go and get me a big farmer's hat. An old Iowa farmer's hat. Because I got a lot of face to cover. What were you going to say? You had something smart you wanted to add to that?
Hey. I was like, I got a big head, too. I got a lot of head to cover for sure.
A lot of head to cover. A lot of face that needs to be covered. But, I mean, also, your arms. You know what I learned from talking to the Dermy doc?
What'd you learn?
Your left hand, your left arm, often has more sun damage than your right arm.
I have heard that, and I think I know why.
Yes.
Because of where you put your arm when you're driving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's it.
Which, when I first learned that, I was like, it makes sense, but I never was like, oh, I'm in my car, I'm protected. I'm not in the sun, but yeah, it's.
I would see, and when I lived in D.C., there are all kind of different cultures in the D.C. area, and I used to see, especially Asian women, would have a special sleeve that they would wear when they were driving.
Oh,
They'd
interesting.
pull it up, and it would pull it up over their arms, and it would cover up their arms, and so they wouldn't expose that arm to the sun. To have one arm that was tanned and one that was not as tanned. But no, I mean
that's smart.
My dermatologist told me, he said it's the left arm, and again I'm having some things done there, and it's just such a joy to go through all this mess.
Well, Brian, I speaking of the driving in the left arm, but I guess in Britain it would be the right arm.
The right arm, that's correct. Okay, isn't that something? Yeah, but in America, they see it all the time that the left arm will have a lot more sun damage on it that they have to treat than does the left arm has more than the right arm does.
You know who in America actually has to pay attention to the right arm, though?
Who?
Mail delivery drivers. Because all their cars they're all on the right side as well.
They're backwards. You're right. Sure are. All right. Well, let's get on to the news of the day. We got a lot of it. If you haven't heard already, the Supreme Court, by a vote of 6-3, that's 6 conservatives, 3 liberals on the high court at these days, have voted to strike down the Trump-era ban on bump stocks. Now, a bump stock is something that you could attach to a semi-automatic weapon, and if used in a certain way, it could allow you to fire a lot of shots rapidly. But when the ATF put out their rule on it, they ruled that it was essentially the bump stock turned a semi-automatic into a machine gun. And the high court said that's not the way they look at it. That's not the way they look at it at all. Let me see if I can find those. Here's from FoxNews.com. Supreme Court strikes down federal ban on bump stocks. And a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down a federal ban on bump stocks, which is an accessory to firearms. They struck down a federal rule 6-3. The decision written by Justice Clarence Thomas. He said, Congress has long restricted access to machine guns, a category of firearms defined by the ability to shoot automatically more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. Semi-automatic firearms, which require shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot, are not machine guns. This case asked whether a bump stock, an accessory to a semi-automatic rifle that allows the shooter to rapidly re-engage the trigger and therefore achieve a higher rate of fire, does it actually convert the rifle into a machine gun? We hold that it does not. In the case, Garland versus Cargill, The court was asked whether a bump stock device is a machine gun as defined by federal law because it is designed and intended for use in converting a rifle into a weapon that fires automatically more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. We hold, they wrote, that a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun because it cannot fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger, and even if it could, it would not do so automatically, Thomas wrote. The ATF, therefore, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, therefore exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies bump stocks as machine guns. Now, it was the Trump administration that initiated this ban on the devices, reversing earlier regulations. And President Biden's Justice Department defended that in court, but the high court has said, nope, bump stocks are not illegal. They do not turn a semi-automatic weapon into a full-on automatic weapon. Predictably, the three liberals on the high court, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented from the majority, saying that the court puts bump stocks back in civilian hands, and to do so, it casts aside Congress's definition of a machine gun and seizes upon one that is inconsistent with the ordinary meaning of the statutory text and is unsupported by context or purpose. Okay. She goes on. When I see a bird that walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I call that bird a duck. Sotomayor wrote in her dissent. So there is that, that for most people who are aficionados of like the AR-15 or other semi-automatic weapons, they will be happy about this. A lot of people will not be happy about it. And it is interesting that it was the Trump administration that brought this rule forward, but now the Supreme Court 6-3 has said, a bump stock does not transform a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon. Now, this is the time of year between now and the end of the month when the Supreme Court has a lot of work to do. They are headed into their final few weeks with over a third of the cases heard this year still undecided, including ones that could reshape the law on everything from guns to abortion to social media. The justices are also weighing, and this is a big deal, whether former President Donald Trump is immune from criminal prosecution in the election interference case against him with more than a month after hearing arguments. The court heard 61 cases. 23 remain now unresolved after today's decision. Let's explore some of the interesting cases here. Presidential immunity. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that everybody's waiting for. Donald Trump is arguing that former presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts they took in office and that the indictment he faces on charges of election interference must be dismissed. The Supreme Court has previously ruled that former presidents can't be sued in civil cases for what they did in office, but it has never weighed in on criminal immunity. The timing of the decision may be as important as the outcome. Trump's trial in Washington, D.C. may not take place before the November election, even if the court rules he is not immune. So there you go. There's a January 6th case. In this particular case, a former Pennsylvania police officer is challenging the validity of obstruction charges brought against hundreds of people who took part in the assault on the Capitol January 6, 21. Trump faces the same charge of obstructing an official proceedings. The issue is whether the law meant to discourage tampering with documents sought in an investigation can be used against the Capitol rioters. Emergency abortion case. There's a second abortion case on the docket this year, whether doctors can provide a medical procedure in emergencies in states that banned abortions after the court overturned Roe v. Wade. Another gun case. This is pretty interesting. The justices are weighing whether to uphold a federal law that seeks to protect domestic violence victims by keeping guns away from people alleged to have abused them. An appeals court struck down a law that prohibits people under domestic violence restraining orders from possessing firearms. The court found that the law violated the Second Amendment following the Supreme Court's 2022 ruling that expanded gun rights and changed how courts are supposed to evaluate gun restrictions. The most significant Supreme Court case in decades on homelessness centers on whether people can be banned from sleeping outdoors when shelter space is lacking. A San Francisco-based appeals court decision said that amounts to cruel and unusual punishment, and that will be before the high court as well. I think, for me, the one that I'm really interested in is the Chevron doctrine. A review of the Chevron doctrine. What is the Chevron doctrine? Without getting too deep into a bunch of geekoid stuff, the Chevron doctrine said basically that when Congress writes a law, if the agency that's supposed to enforce that law finds that somehow there is ambiguity in the law, that they then can then decide how the law should be enforced with regulations. And then if you challenge the regulation, the Chevron doctrine said that you should give great deference to what the agencies did in trying to carry out the law and trying to interpret the law and carrying it out. Great deference should be given. And that means that when you challenge the law, often it falls by the wayside because people say, well, we're supposed to give great deference according to the law and the Chevron doctrine, the precedent there. We're supposed to give great deference to the agency that decided how this law should be interpreted. I think what happens in real practice is Congress writes a law, and then somebody comes along and says from the agency, well, this is how we're going to interpret that law. Then another president comes along and says, well, we look at that completely different. We interpret the law this way. And there's always changing regulations, a lot of lawsuits, but every time you bring it up, they say, well, Chevron doctrine, you're supposed to give great deference to the agencies that did this. It's time to get rid of the Chevron doctrine and allow people to bring lawsuits when the agencies have thwarted the original intent of the legislative branch. It will do away with a bunch of stupid regulations, and I'm looking very forward. I hope the court 6-3 strikes down the Chevron doctrine and sets up a new standard. That would be great. That would be absolutely great. Let's call it 20 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. You know, let the team at Restoration Wellness help you achieve your summer goals. I was there today for my annual checkup. I am down. I'm continuing to lose weight. It is good news. And I saw both Carly and Jamie there. They're good people. They'll take care of you like you're a member of the family. You know, summer is here. I mean, it's 93 degrees right now. It's here, whether you like it or not. And you want to look good when you got your shorts on, when you're at the pool, when you're at the beach, etc. And if you need to lose a little weight, this is the place to go. Call Restoration Wellness today at 615-470-8124. Be a part of the 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management program. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, enhance your overall health, and these are customized treatment plans. Not one size fits all. Restoration Wellness considers your unique needs, your lifestyle, your goals, and they come up with a plan that is meant for you and you alone. And whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve the overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. I got to tell you, it's working for me. It's working for Cabana Wife. And the thing I love about this program I'm on right now is I am not the least bit hungry, and I am losing weight. Learn about the newest technology in weight loss management. Just go to their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
President Biden meeting today with Pope Francis. And new developments in the case of a missing Kentucky infant. We'll have those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. That's Jay Harper in the newsroom. We got Mason Fleming, who is filling in, has done all this week, done a great job. And we've challenged him. You know, Mason, when we do the Phone Your FARB Friday, it's the biggest challenge that we throw at the person behind the board all week long. And you've mastered it so well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're very kind, but they were putting me through the ringer a little bit there. But
they were.
I think we can do better.
You think
I think so.
You have listened to the 4 o'clock hour at 4:35, and you believe that there is room for improvement.
I think so too. Just because we had I think 6 minutes left in the show, and we didn't have as many callers as I thought we were going to have.
Yeah, and then they came when I said, "Hey, we got some phone lines open." It's amazing how quickly they call in.
Oh my goodness, yeah, they blew up.
It's astonishing. All you got to do is say, "Hey, phone lines open, get after it." You know, a lot of people. I just want to say this about how our phone system works. I dislike our current phone system a lot.
I am right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that there's anything we can do about it, but it used to be that when you called in, it would ring and ring and ring and ring because it takes us a while. We've got, I'm looking here, I got 6 lines that are available to us, and so if he's on line 1 and you've just called in and you're the 6th caller, it takes him a little while to work through some of the calls, and this system after about 10 rings, they just disconnect.
Yeah, it just drops you out of nowhere.
It just drops you.
What?
So here's what I would say, and we apologize for that because we don't want that to happen, but it does happen. It's just one of the weird things. I mean, it seems like to me for a call-in phone system, you don't want the phone call to drop after 10 rings because it takes us a while to work through the calls. We got 6 lines. We got to write down who you are, where you're from, and what your topic is.
Absolutely.
It just takes us a while. So if you ever do get dropped, that's not a reflection of how we feel about you as a caller. Just dial again.
And another thing to comment on is if you hear the station start coming through the phone line, that means you're on hold. That means I haven't gotten to you yet, but I did save your spot. So you are in the line. You will be saved into the queue. I'm coming to you. I just had to put it on hold just because I'm talking to another caller right there. I will be getting to you as soon as I can, though.
When you hear the radio coming through the phone, and by the way, don't listen. If you listen to the show on the stream, on a computer stream or on
the radio,
Super Talks TV, whatever you do, when you call in, listen on the phone. And the reason is that the stream is it's like a minute behind.
Yeah, it's a little delayed for sure.
I don't know why. So, if you're sitting there listening to the stream and wait for me to call your name, I will have called your name a minute before you hear it. And so you need to listen on the phone. That's the radio broadcast. And you're listening to, and you need to listen there. So
yeah, we've got everything funneled in there.
And you call in, listen on the phone, not on the stream. If you're listening on your radio, turn your radio down. As because we don't want it to feed back.
Yeah, it gets a little,
we don't want it to go
little choppy.
That thing, have you ever seen that happen?
That's pretty accurate, actually.
That's exactly what it sounds like. That's right, feedback. It's good in guitars, not good in radio. So there's just a little helpful tips about how to do talk radio. It used to be this easy because the only way you could listen to the radio was on this thing called radio. But now you can listen on your car, your phone. You can listen. You can listen on your work computer, your home computer. You can watch us. Hello, everybody. You can watch us on Super Talks TV. There's all kinds of different ways that you can now do it. But it used to be you just had one way.
Everybody crowd around the little box.
Helpful tips for those who might want to call in and participate at 5:35 for round number 2 because Mason thinks you can do better. I mean, a lot of those people jumped on the line late.
Yeah. I was like,
and then by the time they got on the line, we were running out of time.
Yeah, and I do want to say everybody that did call in that first hour, great talking with you. Those ones that did get on that were in the waiting list, please call back now. I have the phone lines open. I'll go ahead and get you guys in the queue so we can get you started for the next segment.
We're just a few minutes away from it now.
We're pretty close.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of time talking about radio etiquette and proper talk show radio etiquette. The only other thing I would say is that, you're allowed to say just about anything, but don't make us push the red button because then we have to put you on super secret probation.
Yeah, never allowed on the station ever again.
And you don't want that to happen, okay? It is now 30 minutes past the hour. Time for the news now on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 5:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Still plenty of sunshine, 93 degrees on Music Row. We'll get you another traffic report and the latest weather forecast in just a few minutes. President Biden meeting today in Italy with Pope Francis. He later said the meeting went well. ABC's correspondent Karen Travers has details.
The White House says President Biden and Pope Francis discussed the urgent need for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza to get the remaining hostages home and increase humanitarian aid. The Vatican released a short video of this private meeting, and the president can be heard telling the Pope he had an impression on his family after his son Beau died in 2015. The Pope responded by talking to the president about the pain he was feeling at that period of his life. The Pope told him in English, "You pray for me, I pray for you." The president replied, "I promise I do." Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Kentucky State Police believe they have located the remains of an 8-month-old girl who went missing as her family prepared to go to court on multiple charges, including abandonment. According to police, detectives located a decomposing infant's body that they believe to be that of Maya Rudd. They found this little girl earlier this afternoon inside the family's residence. It was hidden in a concealed manner. After investigators process the scene, the baby will be taken by the Ohio County Coroner's Office and transported to the Kentucky Medical Examiner's Office up in Louisville. 8 people have now been arrested, including Maya's parents and 4 of her grandparents. Many of those arrested are for drugs and other warrants, but the charges for Maya's parents, Tesla Tucker and Cage Rudd, and her grandfather, Ricky Smith, those charges include child abuse and abandonment of a minor. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at Busy Bee. They got a bunch of promotions going during the month of June. You know, if you got air conditioning, you got heating problems, you got plumbing issues, they're the place to go. And you should sign up to be a member of the Beehive Club, because if your AC unit needs maintenance, and they do, you may as well sign up for the Beehive Club now. Starts at only $99 a year. You'll get 3 services, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at heating, one aimed at plumbing. And right now, and your time is running out, you got to do it quickly, you can sign up for a free round of golf for Dad at Hermitage Golf Course. You must sign up to enter to win. The deadline to enter is tomorrow, so you got just a little bit of time to do it. Winner will be announced on June 17th. In the meantime, they got all kinds of specials. Plumbing, how about $500 off a select tankless water heater? $500 off upright S&C water heaters. 15% off a whole home drain repipe. Repair on your air conditioning, they will waive the $87 dispatch fee if you have some repair work that needs to be done. 10% off all indoor air quality products. And when it comes to plumbing, how about a $99 drain video inspection? Find out why your drain isn't flowing the way it should for $99. $79 water heater flush, which needs to be done ever so often. Again, that's Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. They're the people that you want to go to. For satisfaction guaranteed, here's the number, 615-775-7833, online at busybhvac.com. It's 5:39 on Super Talk 99.7. You know what that means? I mean, let's just get right to it. I mean, I'm excited because it's time for round number 2 of a little thing we like to call Phone Your FARB Friday. Here's how it works. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Get on the line and tell us what's on your mind. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr in your saddle. Maybe you got a June bug in a place where you shouldn't have a June bug. Just get on our 100,000 watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries, because it is a family show. Got a couple of lines still open. A lot of people already stacked up, ready to go. I just need to clean up one thing. In the last round, a caller said that Matt Murphy doesn't have an FM radio. And I said, well, he's got a truck, and he's got an FM radio there. And apparently people heard that, and people in Nomad have been texting him, offering him FM radios. And he says, I've got one. It's one of those under-the-counter combo CD player FM radio deals that were all the rage in 2004. So no need. He says he has an FM radio. All right, we good to go, folks? All right, to the phone lines we go. A couple of lines still open, 615-737-9986. Let's find out what's going on, what's on your mind. Steve in Cookville, you are up first. What's on your mind, Steve? What's bugging you?
Well, Brian, yesterday I think it was, you mentioned that 60% or 59% of our third graders can't read up to snuff. Is that right?
That's right.
Well, look, hey, you learn to read so you can read to learn. These kids are going to be the leaders of our country in 25 years or so. What the heck are we going to do?
Yeah, I'm really very disappointed to see that number, that 59% of third graders are not reading up to snuff, not passing the test. And you know, it's a very controversial thing because there is a plan to like hold some of them back and that kind of thing, make them take the third grade over again. There's a bunch of exceptions. Only about 1.2% actually took the grade over again. But I think really honestly, if you haven't learned to read by the time you're in the third grade, there's something wrong with our educational system. And I hope that we will focus on more money or more effort. The money's not always the answer, but more effort in our kindergarten, first and second grade, people. When I was in the first grade, I was lucky. My mom said, she told me that I was almost reading by the time I went to school. And then when I got through the first grade, I was one of those kids who could read very well, and I was reading on a sixth grade level in the first grade. So I've never had that issue. It's always been easy, and I love to read. My mom used to take. Here's the thing that I would say, moms. Is there a bookmobile? Is there a library nearby? Get books. Now you don't need to just read the stuff that's on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer. Get some books. I used to get 6-7 books during the summer a week and go through them. I would read them. So the way you become a good reader is to read a lot. And by the way, that helps your reading comprehensive. That helps your understanding of English. I can't diagram a sentence, but I know when something's right and I know when something's wrong because I've read so much over the years. But Steve, thanks for the call. Wes in Clarksville, you're up next on the drive. Hey, Wes, what's on your mind today?
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
And the question I've had with all this stuff about the possibility, even though it's maybe not a probability, of former President Trump actually being put in jail, we protect our former presidents with Secret Service agents. So what are they going to do with that? We're going to have to.
Interestingly enough, when he was up for contempt charges, and the judge was making noise like, I will come down on you hard if you don't quit doing certain things, and he sort of backed off on it, but there was the possibility, of course, when you're found in contempt of court, that you can go to jail. And so apparently the Secret Service had worked out how that would happen. So they've already had some conversations about it in that regard. But yes, if he went to jail, there would be a Secret Service contingent that would protect him in jail. That's the way it works. It's the darndest thing ever. Well, but I don't think he's going to jail. I mean, I think but I think, the Secret Service has to plan for everything, right? So they have apparently planned for that, too. I read stories about it. It's pretty interesting stuff. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Harvey in the borough down in Murfreesboro. What's up, Harvey? What's on your mind today? Hey, Harvey, what's up?
Hey guys, wanted to pick your brain on an idea for Trump's vice president pick.
Okay.
I think I'm surprised that Sarah Huckabee isn't stronger in this conversation. After the way things went down with Pence on the 6th, which I agree with where Pence stood with everything, but I think Trump kind of felt betrayed. I'm surprised he's not looking for someone who is diabolically faithful to him, and that's Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's been in the governor's office just a short period of time. I don't know, but I mean, look, here's what I do know. Apparently, documents were sent out to about 7 or so people who are getting the deep vetting. And I think he's going to go from somebody who's in Congress. You know, when he was on Capitol Hill yesterday, he joked to the Republicans who were gathered behind closed doors that there was a pretty good chance that his vice president was in the room as he spoke. And among the people that were there were Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, Elise Stefanik, Byron Donalds. There were others there. And we know that Marco Rubio and who else? J.D. Vance, at least, have been among those who received some of these vetting documents. I found it really interesting that while he was there, he did a meeting with Marco Rubio. And it was ostensibly, they say, to talk about, exactly, what kind of questions, what kind of issues might be coming. Get an issues briefing before the big debate on the 27th. Okay, that could be a good cover story. Marco Rubio is a smart guy. He's really smart and sharp as a tack. And he's already said that he would move his residence out of Florida if he were the vice presidential pick, because you can't have a president and a vice president from the same state. There's a constitutional requirement that they be from different states, but he could move his residence to Washington, D.C. I'm sure he's got an apartment there, or at least an apartment, if not a home. So I think he can work that out. But one way or the other, I think that it's probably going to be somebody from Congress the way it looks. That's just the way it feels to me right now. But I could be wrong. And I do like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but I don't get the impression she's in the mix. How about CJ calling to us from Walter Hill? What's up, CJ?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I've had this idea, and I'm just wondering, I'd like to throw it out there and see what you think about it. When kids are younger and they're getting their driver's license are marked as being underage, so it's very obvious that they're underage. That being said, when people get convicted or charged with DUI, wouldn't it make more sense to basically take away their drinking license and not their driver's license?
In other words, mark them as people who, that's right, and so that they can't be served liquor. Well, I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Look, it is a problem even still. I mean, it happens every weekend in downtown Nashville and other places. People are pulled over for driving under the influence, DUI. And it's become, it used to be a thing that, it was like a slap on the wrist and you were sent on your merry way. But the Mothers Against Drunk Driving changed all that, and now it's a more serious offense across the board. And I don't know that we need to, give them a scarlet letter on their driver's license, but we do need to make sure that people who are convicted of DUIs do, that they are given the help that they need. And we need to monitor them and make sure that they aren't driving when they're intoxicated. Sometimes they put those devices on their car,
I think it would just be an added measure, a nice added measure.
All right, CJ, thank you for a good idea. Interesting. Thank you much. I got a couple of open phone lines. Let's go to Ernie in Cottontown. Ernie, what's on your mind today? Ernie, there you are. Hey, Ernie, what's up, buddy?
I'd like to make a comment about the reading abilities of the third graders.
Yeah.
When I was a third grader, now I'm 78 years old, I spent my summer in the tobacco field and the hay field while you was reading and eating Oreos. And my question is, work ethic. And you evidently have one.
Yep.
But how do you teach these kids how do you train them up as their kids? I worked on the farm. I worked like a dog, and I don't regret it. Dad taught me, you work.
Listen, my dad believed in it too, and I had a part-time job, and I was out hustling. I used to wax cars for money. That was one of the things. My dad taught me how to detail a car, and I did it, and I made a lot of money doing that. A lot of people don't like to wax their cars, but they know it's something they need to have done. You tell somebody, I'll wax your car for $20, you get a lot of people standing in line to have their car waxed. And I did some of that. I did other things. I worked in a TV repair shop when I was old enough to do it. And I had a part-time job from the time I was 16 on. But my mom really, really did early on push us to read a lot. And, back in the days when I was like 8, 9 years old, summers were you laid around with not much to do. And when I didn't have much to do, I was in a corner reading a book, and I think it paid off well for me. But I never picked cotton. Although I'm related to Jimmy Dean, and he said he used to pick cotton with my uncle. Did you know that? Yeah. Let's go to Keith in Bon Aqua. Hello, Keith. There we are, Keith. You're up. Wow. Woo!
I'm here.
What's going on, Keith?
840 we're driving on today.
What's up?
Question for you. First time caller, long time listener. But,
okay.
If President Trump's conviction is overturned, would that expunge his felony conviction on his record?
Yeah, I mean, if it was overturned, it means that the conviction did not stand, and therefore it would not be on his record.
Okay, I've asked that question in other circles, and nobody had an answer. But I assumed that's what it was. But that's all I had. Happy Father's Day to you, and all the shout out to all the other dads out there.
All right, thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate it. I forgot that's this weekend, isn't it? Yeah. Listen, thank you so much. I think we're going to call it quits. Okay, so Mason, I'm going to have to give it to the 5 o'clock people. I think
you're right. I think they pulled it out right there at the end.
Yeah, it was pretty strong.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not a competition, but the 5 o'clock people won. It's 52 past the hour now. King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood. They've been there for 25 years. They are, without a doubt, an independent agency, and that is an advantage for you. You really do want an independent agency. Why? Well, an independent agency doesn't just take whatever they got on the shelf and tell you this is it, take it or leave it. They can look around. They can shop around and find that policy that truly meets your needs. And so you get more insurance bang for your buck. You're going to pay less and get better insurance when they pick something that really fits your needs. And here's the other thing. If you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're not going to get a phone tree. You're not going to get a recording. You're going to get an actual, real, live human being every time who will answer your questions, put you in contact with somebody who can solve your problems. They are the kings of the multi-policy discount. 20, 25, 30, 35%. Huge savings are available if you bundle. So here's what you got to do. You got to get your royal review with King and Associates. Here's what you do. Log into tkinginsurance.com. Again, that's tkinginsurance.com. Listen, good company, good people, King Insurance and Associates. You'll get royal treatment and great rates.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay. Yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. And I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
Good evening. It is 1 minute past 6 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Still plenty of sunshine, 91 degrees. The latest traffic report and another weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The Justice Department says it will not be charging the head of the department with a crime. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy, he's got more from D.C.
It's a formal response to the House's vote this week finding the Attorney General to be in contempt of Congress. Republicans demanded the audio of President Biden's interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur. But since Biden has asserted executive privilege over the tapes, the department says the transcripts will have to suffice. The Assistant Attorney General now says it's been determined that Merrick Garland did not commit a crime in his response, and he won't be prosecuted.
The FAA investigating an incident in the sky when a Southwest Airlines plane took a nosedive, almost crashing into the Pacific Ocean. ABC's M. Yen, she's got more from Washington.
A plunging Southwest plane that came within 400 feet of slamming into the ocean off the coast of Hawaii is now being investigated by the FAA. First reported by Bloomberg, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 jet dropped at an abnormally high rate before the flight crew was able to pull up. No one was injured on the flight, which returned safely to its departure airport in Honolulu.
The U.S. Army once again suspending operations of the humanitarian aid pier that it built off Gaza's coast. Jordana Miller, she's reporting from Jerusalem.
It's the third suspension in a month. This time again, the destructive high seas to blame. They recently broke apart the $230 million pier. Now, to avoid it happening again as more bad weather comes in, U.S. officials say they will move the pier to Israel's Ashdod port. The pier was meant to deliver 2 million meals a day to Gaza's hungry, but it's fallen short of that goal.
One person was critically injured in a Gallatin area house explosion just before 8 o'clock this morning. First responders arrived and found debris scattered across the area and a fire burning in what was left of a residence. At least one person has been hospitalized with severe burns. But a twist in the case, just a little earlier this afternoon, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said the explosion, quote, does appear at this time to have been intentional. No other information immediately available. Earlier today, officials suspected that it was due to a gas leak. Obviously, this is a developing story. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. It's 8 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air all the way till 7. We hand it over to Mark Levin. Anyway, I'm gonna begin my weekend. There's going to be a refreshing dip in the pool, and then I'm going to hang out with the Bulldog on the cabana this evening. It's going to be great. We have some breaking news, and Jay Harper, your story about the explosion up in Gallatin caught my ear because, when I saw the picture that when I was doing prep for the show, I saw the picture of the damaged house, and it is blown to smithereens.
Yes, it was a duplex, apparently, and you're right. I mean, not much left, and the debris field was considerable, landing on nearby homes, bricks and wood, and debris landing in a pretty large area.
And, and they say that like 6 other houses in the immediate area were damaged from the blast, and now they're saying that this is not, to me, it looked like what you see when you see like a house where there's been a gas leak and then something ignites the gas. It sort of looks like that, but now you're saying that officials are suggesting it may be intentional.
That is the latest, Brian. Yes, earlier today, officials were surmising that, as you say, it was a natural gas leak. Now they're not so sure. The TBI making a statement at about 4:30 this afternoon that at the moment, this explosion appears intentional. And that's the only statement as they continue to investigate.
Well, they have brought in the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms people. They're the experts on explosives in the federal government, so that's interesting.
Yeah, one woman severely burned when first responders showed up. She was out in the yard, and she's taken to a hospital. Reportedly, she's awake, alert, and speaking with officials.
Well, that's an interesting story, and I wonder what we're going to find out more as this thing goes on. But, I mean, it's unusual, when you talk about an intentional explosion. But I got to tell you, if you've seen the pictures, and I'm looking at Channel 2, they've got like 10 pictures of it up.
Yeah.
There's a house that's nearby that looks like it was sort of blown off of its foundation. It must have been a hell of an explosion.
Yeah, I know there's also one of the Nashville TV stations actually has somebody's survey, their door camera audio from that.
Oh, no. I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it sounds like a bomb going off. Absolutely. It's pretty frightening.
All right. Well, if you have any more on that, let me know. I think that's a very fascinating story. Let's do a 2024 update and sort of take advantage of a moment to catch up on things. I got some new stuff. I got some stuff that you haven't heard yet, stuff that's been breaking this afternoon. The numbers, I don't really have much in the way of numbers, just an Arizona number. I like to look at the battleground states. Rasmussen, Arizona, two-way race between Trump and Biden. Biden loses by 7 points. Trump wins by 7. In the 5-way matchup, Trump leads by 4. By the way, in the state of Arizona, Kerry Lake is behind Ruben Gallegos, who's the Democrat, by 4 points. This is the run for Kyrsten Sinema's seat. Kyrsten Sinema not going to run for re-election, and it's either going to be Lake or Gallegos. And right now, Gallegos leads by 4, but she's in the hunt. So it's still possible that she might be able to pull that out. But consistently, what's been interesting in looking at some of these races where Biden is not doing well, like I told you, Arizona, Trump would win by 7 if it was just a matchup between Trump and Biden. By 7. That's outside the margin of error. But then you look at like with the Democrats who are running for Senate re-election and states like Arizona and Montana, I'll get into this in a moment, and other places, the Democrats are doing pretty good, which suggests that, Democrats are willing to support a Democrat who's not brain dead or are suffering from dementia. The Democrat senatorial candidates are doing a lot better than Biden is doing in those same states. And so the Democrats can point to that and say, hey, it's not a Democrat problem, it's a Biden problem, and that makes a stronger case for them to shuck Biden and do something else. I don't know. We won't get into that this time because I've talked about that endlessly. Virginia. Virginia is no longer a blue state. It is truly a purple state. It is truly up for grabs. Early polls show that Trump is gaining in this battleground state. I think you have to call it a battleground state. It's not officially. Most people don't call it a battleground state. But if it's even, if the polls are dead even, well, it's got to be a battleground state, right? Early polls show Trump, the presumptive nominee, cutting into the Democrat president's lead. Served as a wake-up call for Virginia Democrats who acknowledge headwinds with voters who are dissatisfied. It's a head-to-head matchup, each tied at 42%. That's according to several polls I've seen. So Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, up for grabs. So I now think, but here's what I think is interesting. Republicans say that if Virginia is even remotely on the table for Trump, that Biden is in more serious trouble in traditional battleground states such as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I don't know why you draw a distinction. I mean, this is just I'm quibbling here, but if the polls show that it's dead even, then you got to consider that a battleground state. So I look at Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia as potential battleground states. I think you have to look at it that way. But maybe the polls will change. Look, Virginia is an interesting place. I covered a lot of Virginia politics over the years because, when I was working in Washington, D.C., Virginia was just across the river. And when you covered elections in Virginia, you learned a thing or two. Northern Virginia is very blue, downstate very red. And then you have the major population centers where there is a high concentration of black votes have traditionally been blue. But right now, what we're seeing is it's an even deal. It has a Republican governor. Is there something happening in the Commonwealth of Virginia that indicates that Trump could win it? Well, he's in the hunt. He definitely is not out of it. It's an even tie. Watch the Commonwealth of Virginia. Because I think you're going to see some interesting stuff there. From the PJ Media, Trump is grabbing the youth vote in unprecedented numbers. I think that's pretty interesting. Does Biden still have a lot of young people voting for him? Yes. But what's happening with the young voters, let's say 18 to 29, somewhere in there, is that more and more of them are being siphoned off. I mean, the numbers that you had in the last election for Biden are just not there. The same is true with black votes. Yes, does Biden, is he getting a lot more black vote than Trump? Yes, but a lot less than he had in the last election. He's losing. Trump is siphoning off black voters, Hispanic voters, young voters, and it's very interesting to see this happen. Any vote you take away from Joe Biden and put over in your column is a win. And it really is. I think when you look at how these polls are looking, I think it's the difference. The people who are disaffected Democrats who just can't bring themselves to vote for Grandpa Joe are a big one. Public polling suggests a significant shift toward Trump's could be coming in the 2024 election, according to Axios, among the country's youngest voters. The latest New York Times Siena polling of likely voters has President Biden with just a 2-point lead over Trump among those 18 to 29. A recent Q poll has Trump ahead by a point among registered voters 18 to 34. By contrast, CNN exit polling shows that Biden won the 18 to 29-year-old vote by 24 points in 2020, and that Hillary Clinton won it by 19 points in 2016. Something is happening. Something is different. One of these things is not like the other. I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting. Yesterday, as I mentioned, Donald Trump was in the nation's capital. He had a closed-door meeting with the Republicans down at the Capitol Hill Club, which is basically next door to the RNC. And they wished him a happy birthday. By the way, he's celebrating his birthday in Palm Beach as we speak. He's giving a traditional stump speech. But so he's there yesterday, and he said several things that have been making news. Little tidbits out of that meeting have been sort of coming out. He says there are 2 Democrat senators who are running for re-election in what are now red states that he wants to see gone. Number one is Sherrod Brown, a Democrat from Ohio. Ohio is a reliably red state. So he says he wants that guy gone. And the other is John Tester, a moderate Democrat from the state of Montana. Montana is a red state, but Tester has been very popular there. And they're top on the list of the Democrats that he wants to see ousted in the 2024 election. And they're throwing a lot of money at them, so I hope that that would be the case. I think John Tester's not a bad guy. His as a Democrat goes, he's fairly moderate, but that's because he's in a red state, right? We Republicans there. We should have Republicans in Ohio. There are more Democrats that are running for re-election in this particular election cycle than there are Republicans, and that bodes well for taking back the Senate. My concern, really, honestly, is the House. I think Republicans will take the Senate. I think that's a very good likelihood, although some Democrats are hanging in there pretty tough. But I think it's a real question as to whether or not Republicans can prevail in the House of Representatives. It's so tight over there. Now, while he was behind closed doors with all of these Republicans, Trump sort of said something, sort of in a sly way. He said that he's talking about the convention. He's talking about everything that's going forward. And he said it's probably possible that his vice presidential pick was among those people in the room with him. Well, let's take a look at who was in the room with him. Among others, we know that J.D. Vance, Tim Scott, and Marco Rubio, 3 senators, have been given the paperwork to do a deep vetting. They always send out the paperwork. We know then there's some others as well. Those 3 were in the room. Representative Byron Donalds was in there. I like him a lot. Elise Stefanik was there. So anyway, it's pretty interesting to see him sort of tease the Republicans, saying, well, it could be that my vice president is here. Well, then I see this story, and I go, pay attention to this. This is good stuff. Because I think sometimes you have meetings and you come up with cover stories for what the meetings are about. Former President Trump met Thursday with Senators Marco Rubio and Eric Schmidt, both Republican senators, to run through policy and other topics that might come up at the first presidential debate later that month. Multiple sources have confirmed to The Hill. Is that a cover story? I mean, I don't think Eric Schmidt is in the running. His name has not been mentioned. But Marco Rubio's name has. Isn't it interesting? He says, hey, my vice presidential running mate is probably in this room. Rubio's in the room, and then he goes off and has a meeting with Rubio. Now, ostensibly, it was about the upcoming debate, but is that a cover story, or is this an indication that he was meeting with his future vice president? I think there's a lot of fingers that are now kind of pointing at Rubio. J.D. Vance would be great. Tim Scott would be great. There's a lot. I mean, we have a wealth of people on the bench who can make great running mates for Donald Trump. But I just think there's something about the fact that he had a meeting. Inquiring minds want to mull that one over for a while. It is now 22 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Former President Trump spending his birthday tonight with a sold-out birthday bash in West Palm Beach, Florida. He started talking about 25 minutes ago. He's still going, but we'll have some of his comments at the bottom of the hour. We'll also have today's closing money news. We'll get those stories to you at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, Jay, who I wouldn't want to be? I wouldn't want to be the people who stand behind the president.
Yeah, I know.
Because, I mean, you got to stand. I mean, he gets off on it. He goes 2-3 hours sometimes, and you got to stand there for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, he starts riffing, and there you are. Yeah.
I mean, everybody else gets to sit down, but you got to stand up behind him there. I think they would let him sit down. Give him a chair or something. I don't know. Well, one way or the other, it is ongoing, and he's speaking now. I'd like to say hello to everybody out there watching on Super Talk TV. Apparently, the numbers are very high today. Hello. How you doing?
Yeah, we're putting up over 260 people here.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
And then that doesn't include the people who are listening on the stream.
Not at all, yeah.
Yeah, that's like there's a big old room full of people out there watching me on TV. I'll try not to do anything unsavory on the camera.
Picking your nose.
I forget that you're there, quite frankly. This is interesting. The House passed a new defense bill, and there's a lot of social stuff in it, social justice stuff that they were trying to take down some of the Biden stuff. I don't know what's going to happen with this particular bill, but there is an interesting development in it. You know, selective service is mandatory. If you're 18 years old, you have to sign up for selective service, and you have to do that all the way until you're age 24, apparently. Well, you are, that is, now they're saying they're changing it to 26. Now, we don't have a draft right now, but you still have to register. I remember, because I'm old, folks. I mean, I'm just older than dirt. I remember when I was in high school, we had an active draft going in the Vietnam War, and I was still in high school, and I was in typing class. It was my birthday. February of 1974, I guess it was. So about 50 years ago. And I was in class, and all of a sudden, the looming figure of Cactus Jack Crawley was in the doorway. Cactus Jack Crawley was our vice principal. I think he was an ex-Marine. He had tattoos, and he was a short, little, stubby man with powerful arms. And I know he had powerful arms because I had to get licks now and then. You see, if you had a part-time job and you got D-Hall, somehow occasionally, you might find it hard to believe, I got D-Hall. I got D-Hall, which meant you're supposed to stay after school. But if you had a part-time job, you can't stay after school, right? So the only way you got out of D-Hall was to go see Cactus Jack Crawley, and you had to take 3 licks. And, I mean, that man would lift you up off the floor, bend you over a chair, and just whack away, man. I'm telling you. Then he'd hit you twice, and then pause, and about the time you'd look back, bam, hit you again. And you're all, I'm telling you, bruising stuff. So when Cactus Jack Crawley showed up at the door, it was a moment of concern, right? And he pointed to me, and he said, "Come here." And so I got up out of typing class. Yes, we had typing class. And I went, and he said, "It's your birthday." I said, "Yeah, I turned 18 today." He said, "You haven't signed up for selective service. Come with me." And they took me into his office, and I had to sign up right then and there. I mean, I hadn't even thought about it. But apparently he was going to make sure that everybody who turned 18 signed up for selective service. And so I signed up right then and there. Went home and told my mom and dad. I mean, it's kind of a shocking thing. Now, the draft ended before I think I had my number called once. Then they did away with the draft during the Vietnam War. But, I mean, it was a thing back in the day. We don't have a draft now, but we do have mandatory selective service registration. And if this becomes law, between the ages of 18 and 26, you could be, in time of war, drafted, I suppose. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Good evening. It is 6:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Still have sun, 90 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast and another traffic report are on the way. President Trump, former President Trump, spending part of his birthday today delivering remarks in West Palm Beach, Florida, at a convention center before the fans that he says belong in what's called Club 47. During his remarks, which are still going on, he's been touching on many topics, including illegal immigration.
On day one of our new administration, we will seal the border, stop the invasion, and send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home where they belong. We have to get them out. We have to get them out.
Mr. Trump celebrating his 78th birthday today. Now let's turn to today's closing money news with Chuck Sievertson.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. The S&P 500 index closed 2 points lower, the Dow down 58, and the Nasdaq up 21. Leaders of the group of 7 wealthy democracies agreed in Italy to engineer a $50 billion loan to Ukraine funded by interest earned on profits from Russia's frozen central bank assets. A federal judge says the government's antitrust case against Google over its advertising technology will go to trial in September. The artificial intelligence startup Perplexity AI has raised tens of millions of dollars from the likes of Jeff Bezos and other prominent tech investors for its mission to rival Google in the search engine business. Federal regulators are investigating how parts made with titanium that was sold with falsified quality documentation wound up in Boeing and Airbus passenger jets in recent years. Those companies say planes containing the parts are still safe to fly.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather, they are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. You know, Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your health care is delivered without the red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Smart Care plans make it even more affordable, starting at $69 a month. You get free office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. The entire year free. Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of conditions, not just the symptoms, utilizing a comprehensive and functional approach. And by usually seeing you the same day, or in some cases the next day, you're treated at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. They are located on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 615-599-6868. That again, that's 615-599-6868 to schedule an appointment.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Still pretty steamy out there, 92 degrees. Feels like it's 94 degrees. But, it's going to be a warm weekend. I don't see rain coming anytime soon. So, this is definitely what I would say. This is the time that you wash your car. I mean, it always irritates me when you wash a car and then it rains the next day, right? And so if you wash your car now, there's no rain in the forecast for quite a while.
Just make sure you towel dry your car so that way the water streaks don't get baked onto your windshield right out of the heat.
And boy, I tell you, I've been amazed at people who just run through a car wash and then just drive off.
Yeah, don't even stop to towel it off or anything. It's like, that doesn't fix anything.
My dad was so meticulous about his cars.
Oh, yeah.
And he was always like, no, you never do that. You stop, you dry it off, you make sure. He had a chamois. That was the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't use no towels. He had a chamois, and he'd wring it out. That's the nastiest looking thing you ever saw, but he made his cars sparkle and shine.
I bet.
He taught me how to do that when I was young. And now I'm probably about as meticulous about my truck as he was about all his cars.
I mean, it's smart. It keeps the upkeep of the vehicle, and it just seems minor, but that little clean can help the exterior last so long.
That's exactly right. I got a lot of stuff to cover here, some oddball stories, as we are going to be here all the way till about 7 o'clock. Then Mark Levin will carry on through the evening. Some stuff that I want to cover, just a mishmash of stuff. The Department of Justice will not prosecute Attorney General Merrick Garland for contempt because he has refused to turn over audio from the Biden-Hur interview. Now, do you know what this Biden-Hur interview is? So Biden was under investigation about all of those classified documents that he had, in the garage next to the Corvette and other places. And he brought in the president of the United States, it was back in October, and sat him down for 2 days' worth of interviews. Over the course of 2 days, asked a lot of questions. And he ultimately decided, the special counsel did, Robert Hur, that he was not going to bring charges against the current president, saying, well, we could take it to a jury, but the jury would likely just look at him as an elderly man with a poor memory. And, the Democrats are upset because he threw in that thing about poor memory, but it was based on the interview he did with him. He wasn't making it up. The guy couldn't remember things. He got all kinds of facts wrong, didn't have any sense of timeline or anything like that. Made a lot of mistakes over the course, geezed a lot, wasted a lot of their time. So there was a transcript that was developed off this, and that's been released. And so when they came out and said, we're not going to bring charges, well, the Republicans in the House said, wait a minute. If you're going to make a case like that, if you're going to say he should not be prosecuted based on the interview we did with him, we need to hear the recording of the interview. And the Department of Justice said, no, you can't have it. And they said, then, by the way, the president claims executive privilege over that particular recording. I don't think he can. I don't think that's what executive privilege is all about. But one way or the other, Justice Department's backing him up and said, no, you can't have it. So the House then decides they're going to bring contempt charges against the Attorney General for refusing to obey the lawful orders of Congress. Now comes word that, that referral has been sent over to the Attorney General. They voted on it this week. And now the DOJ says they will not prosecute the Attorney General. Let me see if I can give you some answers why. From Fox News, the Justice Department will not prosecute U.S. Attorney Merrick Garland over contempt. House voted Wednesday to hold him in contempt. Consistent with this long-standing position and uniform practice, the department has determined that the responses by Attorney General Garland to the subpoenas issued by the committees did not constitute a crime, and accordingly, this department will not bring the congressional contempt citation before a grand jury or take any other action to prosecute the Attorney General. Assistant Attorney General Carlos Felipe Uriarte told Johnson, the Speaker of the House, in a letter. So they're not going to bring any charges. Is that it? Maybe, maybe not. There is a boy, it hasn't been used in modern history, but there is a way that you can hold them in a different kind of contempt, and you can send, actually, it's been done, where you send out the House Sergeant at Arms to arrest the individual. In other words, is it possible that the House of Representatives will take up this other kind of contempt citation and authorize the House Sergeant at Arms to go out and arrest the Attorney General of the United States? Wouldn't that be a thing? I mean, what jail would they hold him in on a contempt charge? So I don't know. I mean, it seems unlikely, but it is possible. It could happen. Stay tuned. We'll let you know what happens. But this is the kind of thing that comes out late on a Friday afternoon, something that will not largely be talked about on the evening newscasts. And people are off already enjoying their weekend, their Father's Day weekend. A federal judge has blocked Biden's Title IX rule in 4 states, calling it an abuse of power. Federal judge in Louisiana calls President Biden's mandatory protections for gender identity a threat to democracy and has blocked the expansion of Title IX in 4 states, calling the mandatory gender identity protection an abuse of power. U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty granted a preliminary injunction on Thursday and referred to the Biden administration's unilateral Title IX changes as a threat to democracy. This case demonstrates the abuse of power by executive federal agencies in the rulemaking process. The separation of powers and the system of checks and balances exist in this country for a reason. Doughty ruled that the changes were inadmissible because the term gender discrimination, as used in the establishment of Title IX, only included discrimination against biological males and females at the time of its enactment. Doughty ruled that the changes were inadmissible because the term gender discrimination, as used in the establishment of Title IX, included biological males and females at the time the thing went forward. But the Biden administration had claimed that, that gender, they changed it so that, gender identity became part of Title IX. It's not in the law. And their interpretation of the law is, according to this judge, an abuse of power. So this basically does not apply nationwide. It applies to 4 different states. Louisiana, this is a weird bunch of states. Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, and Idaho. This is now the rule. They don't have to obey Title IX, but there have been other challenges to the Biden administration's reinterpretation of Title IX. And basically what this is doing, this is protects women from having to compete against men in the field of athletic play. Maxine Waters says that DEI is important. Well, first of all, anything that Maxine Waters tells me, I always take with a grain of salt. But she says this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion is important because black prosecutors are going after former President Donald Trump. If we're ever going to change the criminal justice system and get some justice, we've got to be in there, Waters said. We've got to be educated, and that's why we're never going to give up, because now we see what it means. When they go low, black women are going to law school, Waters continued. Yeah, there you go. Well, DEI, as you know, I've talked about it endlessly. I don't have any problem with diversity. I'm all in favor of diversity. Diversity, good. I don't have any problem with inclusion. I think including everyone in the world, in the workplace, is a proper action. And I don't have any problem with equality, but I have a problem with this word equity. I want diversity. I want inclusion. Equity, though, is a word that sounds like equality, but it's not equality. Equality means that the playing field is level and everybody has the same opportunity. That's what equality means. Everybody gets the same opportunity. The playing field is level. Nobody has an advantage. Nobody has a disadvantage. You go out there, give it your best shot. But equity sort of runs against the idea that I believe is important in America, that is that we should advance based on the merit of our actions. In other words, if you got one person who works hard to accomplish something and somebody else who didn't put much effort into it, why should there be the same outcome for both of them? Shouldn't be. Merit and hard work and nose to the grindstone and putting in the effort needed to succeed should always trump somebody who doesn't do those things. So I don't believe in equity, an equitable outcome. I believe in equality, which means that everybody gets the same opportunity. But, the Democrats are big onto DEI. They're big into this thing called ESG, which is DEI basically for corporations, etc. And Maxine Waters says it's important to have DEI so we can get Trump. Okay. The FAA is now investigating an alleged counterfeit titanium said to be in Boeing and Airbus planes. Now, they say that the planes that have this titanium that didn't have the certain standards, didn't have all the documents, and it could have been counterfeited, they're still okay. But again, it raises real questions about what kind of aircraft are we building in America today? Well, the Airbus is not an American company, but Boeing is. Boeing had another problem with one of their planes. I don't read too much in it. Southwest Airline Flights is flying, and all of a sudden it starts doing something called the Dutch roll. It's hard to explain, but the wingtips go left and right, the tail wags back and forth, and the nose of the aircraft is doing basically figure eights. It is a dangerous thing when it happens, but as it turns out, it was okay. They were able to do it. Now they say this plane had a particular problem with one piece of equipment, but it's under investigation. Poor Boeing can't catch a break at all. And with that, we will conclude our Friday broadcast. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Populations of animals. Think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
you're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, I got my first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or staying in a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.